Close the doors of your mind from all carnal will, all carnal thought, all emotions, all desires, all fears, all laziness, all doubt, all affection, and all thought that does not allow your mind to come to balance within oneself, within the center of your mind, in your cranial nerves, in your frontal lobe, in your personality. For this Yom, this day of rest, this Shabbat, we acknowledge the one who sits in the highest Shamayim, above the Shabbat Shamayim, who has been Yahusha at the right hand, helping him govern as an Azar, the Shabbat Shamayim, and the surface of the earth, through the Rakia, through the center of the earth, down to the surface of the earth. The one who made all of the Har, and all of the waterfalls and the fountains and the rivers of these streams of the world. The one who gives life and takes away. The one who gives breath, and the Shama and the Ruach to humans, to Ish, to Isha, allows them to be a God. The one who allows us to come into the knowledge of who he is. And the one who wounds, who kills, who makes alive. The one who hardens people's hearts. The one who softens hearts. The one who creates evil in the city. The one who brings shalom and peace. Yahuwah Elohim, the all-powerful, the all-shadi, the one who rules over all princes, powers, principalities, spirits, shadim, princes, governors, rulers, kings, teachers, husbands, wives, children, the one who gives life, the one who can number the hairs of your head that you cannot number, the one who can number the kukabim that you cannot number, Yahuwah Elohim. So this Yom, as we move forward, we move forward in compassion, in kindness, in love, in joy, in shalom, in temperance, in forgiveness, in mercy, and most of all in love, in hab, which binds everything together in perfectness. But we will in no wise clear the guilty. So this is Wisdom of Solomon, Kukma Shli Shaluma 6:12 through 25. It says, wisdom is glorious and never fadeth away. Never fadeth away. Yahusha said, Shamayim is my throne, the earth is my footstool. He said, the heaven and Shamayim and earth will pass away, my word will never pass away. Yea, she is easily seen of them that love her, and found of such as seek. So if you don't have love and you're not seeking, which is an action word, these are things that you have to put into play, you won't be able to acquire wisdom and knowledge. She prevented them that desire her, and making yourself first known unto them. It's just like a woman or a male or somebody trying to get into a relationship. It's not something you can attain with ease. You have to be a persistent seeker, and you have to seek with love. It says, whoso seeketh her early shall have no great travail, for he shall find her sitting at his doors. You will find her early in the morning, when you get up in the morning, when you get up and pray, when you go out and breathe the air, and allow it to come into your nose and your lungs. Just like we talked about your branches in your lungs. When you allow it, when you go outside and you allow the sun, you see the sunrise, you see all the insects waiting for the sun to rise so they can go to work. Right? You'll find it in the door. He says, verse 15, to think thereupon her is perfection of wisdom. So you got to think on it. You can't just leave and find kukma and just not think. You have to continually have your makashaba on that actual thought process. And whoso watches for her shall quickly be without care. If you continually watch, Yahushua said, watch unto prayer. He said, watch. Why? It says, verse 16 says, for she goeth about seeking such as are worthy of her, showeth herself favorably to them in the ways, and meeteth them in every thought. Is wisdom and kukma knowledge and understanding meet you in every thought. When you walk outside, when you go exercise, when you eat food, when you wake up in the morning, when you're taking care of your body, your temple, when you're taking care of your house, when you're washing your car, when you go to your job, when you're going to wherever you may travel to, is wisdom and kukma meeting you in every thought? Or is Ra meeting you in every thought? Right? That's one's choice. Right? You have to choose that. This is wisdom of Shaluma, Kukma Shaluma 7:6 through 14. For all men have one entrance into life. We look at our entrance into life. We came in through the woman, through the matrix of a woman. Whether you male or female, you came into this world through a woman. It says, the light going out. Wherefore I prayed, and understanding was given to me. You're going to have to pray. People say, I don't have to pray. You have to palau. How you say? You have to pray continually. And I called upon Elohim Yahuwah, and the ruach of wisdom came to me. That's how you get it. I prefer her before scepters and thrones and esteemed riches. Nothing's in comparison to her. I prefer her before a seat on the government, as a governor, a prince, a ruler, a leader, a shepherd, a person, leader of a home. People say prefer to before scepters, thrones, and esteemed riches. Before money, billionaires, trillionaires, quintillionaires, millionaires, 100,000, whatever you may pursue in your life. He said, I esteemed it before all of that, before gold and silver, before 666 shields of gold. He said, I pursued it before all of that. He said, nothing is in comparison to wisdom. He says, verse 9 says, neither compared I unto any precious stone, any type of stone. Whether sardonyx, topaz, beryl, all the stones on a breastplate, a sardonyx, chrysolite, copper, hematite, doesn't matter. Jade, before any stone, because all gold in respect to her is that little sand. You look at the sand of the sea. You grab it in your hand, you won't be able to touch it. You grab it in your hand, you won't be able to count it. It's just like little sand. And silver is counted as clay, because silver, sand, and clay are all made by wisdom. Yahuwah formed the world by wisdom. So therefore, all the things you desire, you need to desire kukma, wisdom, in your life, so you know how to understand how to live. Verse 10 says, I loved her before health and beauty. People look at health and beauty. People get all these beauty products, all these things that they own, all these things they buy, all these things that they want to look beautiful. But if you ain't beautiful with kukma, wisdom on the inside, what good is all that beauty on the outside? It's just a beautiful person with an ugly countenance on the inside. It says, and chose to have her instead of light. Well, before the sun comes, you look at the Shemesh. It comes out of the first portal we're it comes out of the portal. What happens? He said, I preferred it before that. For the light that cometh for her never goeth out. You look at the light before the sun, before the kukah beam, before the yard, before the sun, moon, and the stars. There was a light before that. He said, that light never goes out. These other lights got to bow down. These other lights have to leave. And so does light when it comes into a room, or when it comes into the presence of darkness. Darkness has to leave. Why? Because this light never goes out. Verse 11 says, and all good things together came with her, and innumerable riches in her hand. It's innumerable. People say, what is riches? Wisdom. You can't get wisdom if you ain't free. You can't get wisdom if you can't walk down a trail. You can't get wisdom if you can't go to sit by the water. You can't get wisdom if you can't meditate, Haggah or Shakor, like Yitzhak. You can't get no wisdom. You can't get wisdom locked in four walls. Right? It says, and all the good things came with her, and innumerable riches in her hand, and I rejoiced in them all, because wisdom that goeth before them. And I knew not that she was the mother of them. She created it. And I learned diligently, and do communicate her liberally. I do not hide her riches. That's what people do. I hide it. I'm going to hide my kukma wisdom. I'm going to hide it from people. I'm going to hide it from my mother. I'm going to hide it from my father. I'm going to hide it from my sister. I'm going to hide it from people that need it. No, you don't do that. You give it to them. Give, and it shall be given. See if Yahuwah won't open up the windows of Shamayim and pour you out a ruach that you have not room enough to receive. Pour you out a barak that you have not even room to receive. You got to give it. That's the only way. You got to give your service. You got to give your servitude. You got to give all your energy. You got to empty yourself while you're here in this earth. Why? If you don't empty yourself, then guess what? You're going to still have something left. You got to give it all away. Right? We're going to talk about that too. And I rejoiced in them all, because wisdom go before them. And I knew that she was the mother of them. I learned diligently, and do communicate her liberally, and do not hide her riches. For she is a treasure unto men and women, and that never faileth, which they that use become the friends of Elohim, being commended in the gifts that come from learning. Right? This stuff come from learning. It said, train up a child in the way they should go. When they are old, they say they won't depart. It comes from learning. You got to these things have to be imparted inside of you. Your mother was a Hittite. Your father was an Amorite. You came from the land of Canaan. I watched and I raised you up. I gave you clothes. I clothed you. I gave you all the things you need to become that person who you need to be. But now you're trusting in your beauty and your what? Your health and beauty. You're trusting in your silver and your gold now. You're trusting in your esteemed riches and your scepters and your thrones and your positions. But it comes from learning. Sirach chapter 1. 2 through 21. Who can number the sand of the sea? Can you number it? Because wisdom like sand. He's always like grain of sand and drops of rain in the days of eternity. Can you number the drops of rain on your windshield when it rains? No, you cannot. You can't even number all of them. They all have different measurements and different qualities of each drop. You won't be able to measure not one actual drop on that windshield, or how many molecules hit your front yard when it rains. You won't even be able to do it. It absorbs so fast. It says, who can find out the height of Shamayim? Can you find out the height of the Shabaims? Not in your flesh and blood. And even if you did go past the first Shamayim, you won't even get past it without a password. And the breadth of earth, and the breadth of the earth. Can you measure the earth out? I know they got maps and all these things and saying how big it is and how far the sun is, 3,600 miles from the earth or the moon, or how far they measure out the earth. You don't know how big the earth is. You don't even know how far it stretches. You don't even know how far it goes past the ice wall or the water that actually exceeds at the ends of the earth that leads into the portal that go into the Shamayim. You don't even know. Talking about you know the ends of the earth. You don't know it. You haven't measured it out. You may have an estimate, but you haven't. And the deep and wisdom. Can you do that? Can you measure it out? Can you find out the height, the breadth, and the deep? Can you do that? It says wisdom has been created before all things. Before everything you see, wisdom was here. So why wouldn't you want something that was here before you was even born? Why wouldn't you want something that was here before your cryptocurrency wallets even came out? Before your gold and your silver charts even came out? Before your land masses and your land ownership even came? Why wouldn't you want something that was before that? Before a rocket ship? Before a position? All these things are all created by wisdom. Wisdom has created all things, and the understanding of the prudence from everlasting. The word of Yahuwah, the Most High, is the fountain of wisdom. It is the fountain of Kukma, wisdom, a fountain springing up to everlasting life, as Yahusha said in the book of Yehukanan, chapter 4. It is springing up to everlasting life, and her ways are everlasting commandments. It's everlasting. It don't stop. It's infinite. It goes on forever. Verse 6 says, to whom have the root of wisdom been revealed? If it's been revealed to you, he said, to whom have it been revealed? It's the root of it. And who have known her wise counsel? Who have known it? Verse 7 says, unto whom have the knowledge of wisdom been made manifest? And who has understood her great experience? Who have done it? Who? Verse 8 says, there is one wise and greatly to be feared. There is one wise and greatly to be feared. Yahuwah sitting upon his throne, above the Shamayim, above the 7 Shamayims. Can you go to past the 7 Shamayims? Can you even understand the different worlds and things? No, you cannot. You're just a human. Elohim inside of a human body. Either you worship Yahuwah or you being worshipped. It's either one or two things. Either you are worshiping Yahuwah as an Elohim inside of a human body, or you being worshipped. It's either one of the two. Verse 9 says, he created her and saw her and numbered her and poured her upon all his works. She is with all flesh according to his gift, and he hath given her to them that love him. You got to love him. He said, love Yahuwah with all your heart. Do not lean to your own understanding. He said you gotta trust in him. You gotta love Ahab. You gotta seek with love. You gotta love Yahuwah. You gotta love everything he said. You gotta love his commandments. You gotta love what he said, the do's and the don't do's. You gotta love everything. You gotta love the things that he tell you to hate. See, nah, you gotta love the things he tell you to hate. You have to love that. Because if you don't, this is O.D.E. Shaluma. Odes of Solomon, chapter 7, said, my joy is in Yahuwah, and my course is toward him. His way, this way of mine is beautiful. Is beautiful. For there is a helper for me, Yahuwah. He is generously shown himself to me in his simplicity, because his kindness has diminished his grandeur. He became like me, that I might receive him in form, and he considered like me, that I might put him on. Put ye on Yahushua Mashiach. All that immersion to Yahushua have put him on. And he became like you. So you immerse in him, you put him on. People say, so what are you waiting for to walk like him? It says putting away from him. It says the father of knowledge is the word of knowledge. He who created wisdom is wiser than his works. You're not wiser than the one who made wisdom. Before all things were created, before your body was even formed by the Malaki and the other beings that formed your toes, your fingernails, all the way to your toes, all the way down to your cranial nerve, all the way to your top of your hair. He did that. Right? And guess what it says? You're not wiser than him. And it says, and he who created me, when yet I was not knew what I would do when I came into being, on account of this, he was gracious to me in his abundant kind, and allowed me to seek from him and to benefit from his sacrifice. For he it is who is incorruptible, the perfection of the world and the Father. He's perfection of the world and the Father. Right? So we look at ourselves and we look at who one needs to be. This wisdom of Solomon, Kukum Shli Shaluma, 6:12-25. They that put their trust in him shall understand the truth. We talk about trust all the time, but if you don't understand the truth, that means you don't trust him. If you still don't understand the truth, you don't trust him. And such as be faithful in love shall abide with him. If you don't have a love, he ain't getting no wisdom. You ain't seeking with no love, you ain't getting nothing. And then when you don't have no love, faithful, he says, he can't even abide. You have to have a hob on the inside. Behold, the strength of the house. It says, for Khan and mercy is to his Kadashim, and he have care for his elect. He have care. He will say, I'll never turn my face to them, I know. I prepared my breast like a mother nursing a child. They could do milk that they may live by it. You're supposed to live by this. But the unrighteous or ungodly shall be punished according to their own imaginations, your own thoughts, the way you want to think, the way you want to do it, the way your pattern works, the way your thoughts work. He said, your own imagination, which have neglected the righteous and forsaken Yahuwah. He said, you're going to forsake righteousness, the righteous, and how you say it? You forsaken Yahuwah. Because you got your own imaginations. And we know what happens when you have your own imaginations. You become a rebel. How you say we become rebellious people. It says, for whoso despises wisdom and nurture, he is miserable. Right? You look at Ish, Isha, Yalid, Malakim. You look at the order from Bereshit. When you start looking at the beginning of the world and the creation of the world, you look at Yahuwah, his being, Yahusha, Adam, male and female, then separation, Ish and Isha, then you have children. Then you have Malaki, who are the servants. Right? All these things are what? A part of his making. But he said if the head, Adam, for whoso despises wisdom and nurture, he is miserable, and their hope is vain, and their labors unfruitful, and their works unprofitable. You have, even though you want to make prosper, he said it's still unprofitable. He's like, man, I done 10x'd it. I done 15x'd it. I done 100x'd it. He said, man, it's still unprofitable because you despise on wisdom and nurture. Right? It says, their wives are foolish, their children wicked, their offspring cursed. Why? Because once it trickles down to the top of the mountain, it flows down to the valleys because they're attached to the mountain, the hillside. That's like your Ish, your Asha, and your children. Right? Just like trees grow on top of mountains, on the sides of the mountains and at the bottom. So it's like the food chain. So it's like the pyramid. Except who's at the top of the pyramid? Right? It says, wisdom of Solomon, Kukum Shli Shaluma, 7:6-14. For all men, so we talk about all men have one chance to life. Why? Because you only get one chance. Why are we reading this again? Because you only get one. He said, when I prayed, understanding was given to me. I called upon all, and the ruach of wisdom came to me. Right? So now, we done did this, we done read it again, and we done read all of this. Guess what I'm saying? I prefer her before scepters, thrones, and esteem riches. Nothing's in comparison to her. Right? Because if you accept it before scepters and thrones and riches, then you are, how you say, your works are unprofitable. If you don't have that wisdom, your works will be unprofitable. You will be unprofitable. fruitful. It says, verse 9 says, neither compare I unto any precious stone, because all gold in respect of her is as little sand, and silver shall be counted as clay before her. So you have to desire wisdom before that. If you despise wisdom, that means you got gold, silver, stones, scepters, thrones, and esteemed riches before it. And if you say not doing it, it says, I loved her above health and beauty, which means now you got health and beauty if you despise wisdom and nurture before him. And chose to have her instead of light. It means if you would rather have the light, that sun that comes out of the sixth portal before you will have wisdom and nurture, you worship in the sun. For the light that cometh from her never goeth out. All good things came to me with her, and innumerable riches in her hand, and I rejoiced in them all, because the wisdom that goeth from before them, and I knew not that she is the mother of them. The mother. I prepared my breasts with my Kadash milk, that they may live by it. Right? And I learned diligently and communicate her liberty. I do not hide her riches, for she is a treasure unto men, and never faileth. That which they that use become the friends of Elohim. Abraham was a friend of Yahuwah. Yahuwah said, you are my friends if you do what the word say. Right? You want to be a friend? He says, being commanded from the gifts that come from learning. The gifts that come from learning. So this is the Nazarene Acts of the Shalakim, suggestion of the old serpent. Above all, therefore, you ought to understand the deception of the old serpent and his cunning suggestions to deceive you, as it were, by prudence, and as by a sort of reason creeps through the senses, through your seven gates. You got two nostrils, you got two ears, you got what? A mouth, you got two eyes. That's seven. Some people will use these terms and they use them in a different way. But you look at the day. This is the 7th day of rest. What are you resting? Your mouth, your ears, your eyes, and your noses. You rest in your senses. You rest in them. Because when you leave out of here, them senses moving, boom, 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 and you moving constantly. 10,000 terabytes at a time. Uploading data. Going through data. Doing all these things. Continually. It says, through the senses and deceiving you, it says, and as it by sort and by reason, he creeps through your senses and deceiving you a great gain. Therefore, he insinuates into your minds opinions of Elohim of whatsoever kinds, only that your sin is his comfort. Because he want to get you comfortable in committing sin. He want to get you comfortable in, in not being cognitively focused. He want to get you comfortable in your pattern because he knows it's causing you to commit sin. It says, and he for his immorality was condemned from the beginning to eat dust. You make my children eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. I make you eat dirt. For that he caused to be again resolved into dust him who had been taken from the dust, even till the time when your beings will be restored, being brought through the fire, as we will instruct you more fully at another time. From him, therefore, proceeds all the errors and doubts. Any type of error, any type of doubts in your mind, it comes from, suggestions of the old serpent. They call Satan. It comes from him. He invisible. He can appear visible. He can jump inside of somebody's body. He can shapeshift. He can change form. He can alter physical reality. He can put a light show in the sky. He can do all types of things. He can make sounds come in your house. He can make you fearful. He can make you doubt. He can make you waste away if you entertain him. He says, by which you are driven from Amunah. That's all he's trying to do. Error and doubt and sin. To make you leave Amunah, leave faith, Amunah, and belief in one Elohim. That's all he's trying to do. Get you to worship their gods. He's trying to get you to worship another Elohim. He's trying to get you to worship gold, silver, health and beauty. He's trying to get you to worship scepters and thrones. He's trying to get you to worship the sun. He's trying to get you to worship yourself. He's trying to get you not to be a servant. He's trying to get you to do everything else. He's trying to get you to worship the kukabin, the yark, and the moon. He's trying to get you to do all that. Because he don't want you to think there's one Elohim. Because there are many Elohims and gods. Of course we know that. But there's one who rules over all of them. And that's Yahuwah, right? So this is Apocalypse of Shadrach, Pseudepigrapha, Old Testament. Shadrach said to him, "It was by your will that Adam was deceived, my master. You commanded your Malachim to worship Adam. But he who was first among the Malachim disobeyed your order and did not worship him. And so you banished him because he transgressed your commandment and did not come forth to worship your creation of your hands." When you look at Adam, when he was formed before he fell, you look at him as the very express image of his likeness of his persons. You look at him as Yahushua Mashiach in the flesh, the second Adam, how he came. But after Adam fell, he had to come. But you look at him now, he's saying, he said what? He said what? If you love Adam or man, why do you not kill the Satan, the artificer of all iniquity, architect, who can fight against an invisible spirit? Because that's what he is. He's invisible. He jumps inside of people's bodies and their minds and speaks through their bodies and uses their bodies as tools to fulfill his desire in the earth. If he takes you captive at will, because some people get captive by Satan at will, they don't even fight. He'll let them take over. It says he enters into the heart of men and women like a smoke, and children like a smoke too, and teaches them all kinds of sins. So when you start sinning and you start thinking about sin, or you hear a thought about sin, or you hear a thought about other things you can do, just understand that's him trying to teach you something. He says he even fights against you. He's going to fight against the word after you put it in your mind. They said the immortal Elohim Yahuwah, he even fights against you, the immortal Elohim Yahuwah. Right? And so what can pitiful man do against him? So you think about Yahuwah, he's immortal. You can't see him. You can't even see him, and yet you want to fight. You want to go against and war with Satan without Yahuwah. It says, you have mercy, master, and destroy the punishment. Otherwise, receive me also with the sinners. For if you will not be merciful with the sinners, where are your mercies? And where is your compassion, Yahuwah? And Yahuwah Elohim said, be it known to you that everything which I commanded man to do was within his reach. So people are like, I can't do that. That's too much. I made him wise and heir of Shamayim and earth, and I subordinated everything under him, and every living thing flees from him, from his face. Having received the gifts, however, he became a stranger, an adulterer, and a sinner. Tell me, what sort of father would give an inheritance to his son? And having received the money, the son goes away, leaving his father, and becomes an alien and a stranger in the service to aliens and to strangers. When he's talking about aliens from outer space, talking about just strangers. People, he's saying, you're a stranger. It says the father, then seeing that the son has forsaken him and gone away, darkens his heart and going away. He receives his wealth and banishes his son from his kabod, because he forsook his father. You forsook Yahuwah. Your works are unprofitable, and your labors unfruitful. How is it that I, the wondrous, jealous Elohim, having given everything to him, but he, having received them, became an adulterer and a sinner? I gave everything to you. He said, but you became an adulterer and a sinner. Acts of the Shalakim, advantage and knowledge of the truth. You knowing that you got to battle with all these things. He says, so we must, above all things, hasten to the knowledge of the truth, that as with a light kindled thereat, we may be able to dispel the darkness of errors. Because who put the darkness of errors in your head? Who put it in your mind? Who put it in your cranial nerves, your frontal lobe? Who put it in there? Who put it in your 12 cell salts? Who put it in your 12 cranial nerves? Who put it in your forehead, your personality, your makashaba, in your frontal lobe? Who did that? He did. He taught it to you, and you, how you say, received it. For ignorance, as we have said, is a great evil. So you can't even be ignorant. You can't be like, I don't know. You can't be ignorant. Because he's 6,000 years old. How old are you? He an immortal being that was born into a world that's been here 6,000 years. How old are you? How old are you? Right? But because it has no substance, it is easily dispelled by those who are earnest, by those who seek with love. For ignorance is nothing else than not knowing what is good. For once know this and ignorance perishes. Therefore, the knowledge of the truth ought to be eagerly sought after. You gotta pursue this thing. You gotta do it. And no one can confer it except the Nabi Amat. For this is the gate of life to those who enter, and the road of good works to the city of salvation. Right? That's how you get in. The city of salvation. Akkad Enoch. First Enoch 49:1. So wisdom flows like water, and Kabod is measureless before him, forever and ever. For his might is in all the mysteries of righteousness, and oppression will vanish like a shadow having no foundation. The elect one stands before Yahuwah, the master of spirits. The master. His Kabod is forever and ever, and his power unto all generations. In him dwells the Ruach of wisdom. It is the fountain of wisdom. In him dwells in the spirit of those who have fallen asleep in righteousness. He shall judge the secrets. He gonna judge your secret and your liver and your kidneys. That's why people hide their stuff. He said, I'm gonna judge your liver and your kidney, your inward parts, your spleen. I'm gonna judge your heart. I'm gonna look in your blood and see what type of blood flowing through your body. I'm gonna look what you got. I'm gonna see what everything you got inside your body. I'm gonna see your diseases that you got. I'm gonna see all of that. People say, how he heal all the master of spirits, heal all the diseases? Because the diseases are spirits. These are all spirits. They're all spirits. People don't believe that. They're all spirits. And no one will be able to utter vain words in his presence. You won't even be able to. Silver, gold, health and beauty, stones, all that stuff is vanity. That's the vain words. Because wisdom created it. For he is the elect one before Yahuwah, the master of spirits, according to his good pleasure. Right? So you look at Yahuwah, you look at his Ben, Yahusha, you look at all these things, and you say, if you ain't gonna be uttering no vain words in front of his face, so what is he gonna be talking? He gonna be speaking wisdom that created everything you have, everything you see, and everything you desire in the earth, and all the products and things that one buys, and all the things that people hold dearly. This second Ezra is Bith Azra 1654. Behold, Yahuwah knoweth all the works of men, human beings. So he gonna judge your secrets. He know what you're thinking right now. Their imaginations and their thoughts of their heart, their lay. So he know every single thought from when you was a child all until today. He know every single thought that you had when you were growing up in the world and to the thoughts you have to this present day, even to the thoughts you just had 5 seconds ago. He know it all. Which speaketh by the word, let the earth be made, and it was made. He spoke the bar, and the earth was made. And it says, let the Shamayim be made, and it was created. All he did was just say, and it created. That's all he did was speak. He used the sound vibrational frequencies of his voice, and he spoke life into the world. Verse 56, in his word were the stars made, and he knoweth the number of them. Do you know him? No, you don't. But he know all your thoughts, and searches the deep, and the treasures thereof. He hath measured the sea, and what it containeth. So anything that you want to know inside of the oceans and the sea, the Bering Strait, they call it Strait of Magellan. When the Indo-Europeans went across the world and crossed through the Strait of Magellan, that's what they call it. They named the strait after him. When it's Yahuwah's strait. Right? All that's Yahuwah's water. It's all his. He searches the deep and the treasures thereof. He hath measured the sea and what it containeth. He hath shut the sea up in the midst of the waters. And with his word hath he hanged the earth upon the waters. This is his earth. He hung he hung this earth. You be like, this our planet. No, this ain't your planet. This is Yahuwah's planet. This is Yahuwah's earth. It ain't yours. Right? It says, he spreadeth out the Shamayim like a vault. Upon the waters hath he founded it. That's who built it. He built the Shabat Shamayim, the Rakia, the firmament, the expanse. He did that. You didn't. It ain't yours. One may try to claim it. I'm gonna claim this airspace. How you gonna claim the airspace? It ain't your airspace. None of this is yours. Right? It says, in the desert hath he made springs of water and pools upon the tops of mountains, that the floods might pour down from the high rocks and water the earth. You think about the mountaintop, you think about your mind. You think about your mind overflowing with water, pure water, sprinkled with salt, malak, and it's flowing down from your body to your hands and your feet, all the way down to your whole body. It says he made man and put in his heart what? In the midst of his body, and gave him breath of life and understanding. He gave you breath, he gave you neshama, he gave you understanding. Man, woman, child. Yea, the ruach of the Almighty Elohim, which made all things and searcheth out the hidden things and the secrets of the earth. Surely he knoweth your inventions, so he can do all that, and you can't do nothing. Only a person can do in this world is consume cars, money, food. You consume food, right? You're just a consumer. That's all you are. Yahuwah is like, surely, verse 63, surely he knoweth your inventions. So he can do all this, which he can. And he can do it 10 times over before you can even form a thought after 5 seconds. He said, surely he know your inventions and what you think in your mind. So you go outside and you look at everything he's created, and you be like, he don't know what I'm thinking right now. That's not a very wise thing to say. Even them that sin and would hide their sin, you can't even hide it. He know when you hiding it. It says, therefore, Yahuwah has exactly searched out all your works. He done searched it out. From the beginning of Bereshit, when he uttered the first word, from the house, the beginning of the creation of the Elohims, all the way to the end. And when he say it is finished, when there'll be time no more. He done searched it all out, past, present, and future. He know what you do. He know what you did in the past. He know what you're doing presently. And he know what you're getting ready to do in the future. And you can't even see him. You can't see Satan either. They both invisible, immortal beings. And then you want to, people say, I don't need wisdom. You're fighting against an immortal being, Satan, and Mastam and all the other beings. And then you have an Elohim who's invisible and immortal. And then you want to not have wisdom on the inside of your mind, that you may be able to discern between Taob and Ra, good and evil, in this world, that you may exercise your members. Yeah, you exercising your members, your 2 eyes, your ears, your nose, and your mouth, your hands and your feet, your loins, your private parts. Guess what he said? Therefore, Yahuwah has exactly searched out all your works, and he will put you all to shame. Right? Mashali, Proverbs 8 through 11. And all the words of my mouth are righteous, and there is nothing twisted or crooked in them. Everything that Yahuwah has said is nothing twisted or crooked in them. They are straight or nakuak to those who understand, and right to those who find knowledge. Take my instructions instead of silver, and knowledge rather than silver and gold, health and beauty, scepters, thrones, and all types of things that people desire in the world. For wisdom is better than jewels, any precious stone. And all that you may desire cannot compare with her. Right? The word for words is Amar. All Amar of my mouth are righteous. My utterance, my speech, my word is the promise, my command, appointed unto you, that everything that's said is not crooked. It is not distorted, false, crooked, or perverse. Everything Yahuwah says is his promise. Why would it be false, crooked, for the perverse? That's his promise. The word for straight is nakuak. It means straightforward, equitable, correct, integrity, uprightness, innocence. That's what it's going to do for you. Continually, it's going to do that for you. Straightforward. It'll keep you straightforward. It'll keep you equitable. Because he's going to direct straight, make you straight. It's going to be continual. Right? This is 2 Peter 2:1. But false Nabi'im arose among the people, just as there will be false teachers, or you say Nabi'im, Nabiyahs, right? False Nabiyahs too. Nabi'im, it don't matter. Also among you. False teachers among you who will secretly, right, because they hide their sin, because you got to hide it, bringing destructive heresies, even denying the master who bought them. You're going to deny him, the master of spirits, right? Bringing upon them swift destruction. And many will follow their sensuality, and because of them, the way of truth will be blasphemed. And in their greed, they will exploit you with false words, with untruths, kazab, sheker. We talk about this. They will exploit you with your greed. You know, greed, you talking about straight out in front of them, the ways of righteousness, right? But then it talks about Qahalath. He's saying the spirit of deceit is greed. They will exploit you with false words. Their condemnation from long ago is not idle, and their destruction is not asleep. It's not asleep. It ain't slumbering like some people do, right? It ain't slumbering, sleeping. It ain't hibernating like a bear. For if Yahuwah did not spare the Malachim when they sinned, but cast them into hell and committed them to the chains of gloomy darkness to be kept unto the judgment, if he did not spare the ancient world, but preserved Nuach and a herald of righteousness with 7 others, when he brought a flood upon the world of the unrighteous, it says, if by turning the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah to ashes, he condemned them to extinction. He say extinction level event, making them an example of what is going to happen to the unrighteous. And if he rescued the righteous, Luke, greatly distressed by the sensual conduct of the wicked, for as the righteous man lived among them day after day, he was tormenting his righteous soul over their lawless deeds that he saw and heard. Then Yahuwah knows how to rescue the righteous from the trials and keep the unrighteous under punishment until the day of judgment. And especially those who indulge in the lust of defiling passions, and it says, and despise authority. You despise Yahuwah? How you say? You despise wisdom and nurture. We talked about despising wisdom and nurture. You despise the authority, the master of spirits who sits in the highest Shamayim. You despise his son Yahusha and his father Yahuwah. You despise him. You will despise the highest authority on the earth. He says, bold and willful, they do not tremble as they blaspheme the glorious ones or the righteous ones. It says, whereas Malachim, though greater in power, do not pronounce blasphemous judgment against them before Yahuwah. People saying, why? You're not talking about unrighteous people. We're talking about righteous people. When you see people say unrighteous people, you talking about the hypocrites. Yeah, when you say a hypocrite, he ain't talking about them. He's talking about the righteous people. He says, but these, like irrational animals, creatures of extinct, born to be caught and destroyed, blaspheming about matters which they are ignorant. Because you know ignorance is a great evil. It is evil. Because you ignorant. You saying stuff and you don't even know. People saying, what do you mean? Because you ignorant. Which also, he said, will also be destroyed in the destruction. Why? Because you're going to be destroyed. Suffering wrong as the wage of their wrongdoing. They count it pleasure to revel in the daytime. Who should say, I got to work the world while revel in the daytime. They get drunk in the daytime. They drinking. They are blots and blemishes, reveling in their deceptions while they feast with you. That's all they doing. They eat. They reveling in their deceptions. They just not even understanding what's going on. They have eyes full of adultery, insatiable for sin. They entice unsteady souls. They have hearts trained in greed. That's all they want. They trained in it. People say they really trained. Accursed children, they are trained in greed. Keep that in mind. Accursed children, forsaking the right way. So they know the right way, but they forsook Yahuwah and the righteous. And we just talked about that. Their works unprofitable and they're unfruitful. And guess what it says? They forsook the right way. They have gone astray. They have followed the way of Balaam, the son of Beor. We're going to talk about him. That's what it's for. They followed the way of Balaam, the son of Beor. Why? For greed. Greed. That's the first thing you hit in Dead Sea Scrolls, column 4, 257. What? It says the spirit of deceit is greed. It says the son of Beor. It says who love gain from wrongdoing. They do wrong to get their money. They lie. They use all types of other things to get money. They lie. They practice other things to get it. And he says, but was rebuked by his own transgression. A speechless donkey spoke with human voice and restrained the Nabi'im's madness. We're going to talk about that. These are the waterless springs in the midst driven by a storm. They are waterless. We talked about You're gonna be like an uninhabited salt land, like Yirmiyahu said, or a shrub in the desert, because they ain't got no salt. How you say melach? And it says, for them, the gloom of utter darkness has been reserved. Just like it was in Bereshit. Aydah was out forming void and darkness from the face of the deep. But he said the light coming from her will never goeth out. So what you seeking? More than silver and gold and precious beauty and precious stones and health and beauty and scepters and thrones. Because all these things are all what? A part of the spirit of deceit. He said, but here we go. So for speaking, guess what it says? For them, the gloom of utter darkness has been reserved. For speaking loud boasts to folly, they entice sensual passions of the flesh, those who are barely escaping from those who live in error. You barely escaping those who live in error. He said, you right there with them. And guess what it says? They promise them freedom, but they themselves are slaves of corruption. For whatever overcomes a person, to that he is enslaved. You're enslaved. It says this is the Exodus Shalakim, Ham, the first magician. Right? For these, it says, for these and some other causes, a flood was brought upon the world, as we have said already, and will say again. And all who were upon the earth were destroyed, except the family of Nuach, who survived. So you look at Nuach and his three sons, Shem, Ham, and Yephath, right? Ingloriously discovered the magical, it says, survived, with his three sons and their wives. One of these, by name Ham, ingloriously discovered the magical act and handed down the instructions of it to his sons, who was called Mitzrayim, from whom the race of Mizraim and the Babylonians and the Persians were descended. Him, the tribes who then existed, called Zoroaster, admiring him at the first author of the magic art. Right? You look at these things today. These things exist in the earth today. They still here. So please don't be thinking like, oh, it's gone. No, they're still here. It's still here. And it says what? It says, traitor, whose name also many scrolls on this subject exist. They have this stuff today. He therefore, being much and frequently intent upon the stars, and wishing to be esteemed a god among them, began to draw forth, as it were, certain sparks from the stars. Why do you think they smashing protons, electrons, neurons, and quarks? Why do you think they smashing photons, electrons? Why do you think they're doing that with the Hadron Collider? Why do you think they're doing all these things? You think they just come out of nowhere? No. And to show them to men. What do you think they're showing it to you for? They show you plasma, and they're showing you portals. Why? In order that the rude and ignorant might be astonished. That's the only reason. Because you ignorant, you're going to be astonished. Oh, my goodness. Look at this. You astonished. It says, as with a miracle. And desiring to increase the estimation of him, he attempted these things again and again, until he was set on fire and consumed by the demons himself. Yeah, set on fire by the demons himself, who accosted him with great importunity. Because that's the whole point. He wanted to be esteemed as a god, an Elohim. Why? Because I'm doing something that you can't do. I'm doing something that you can't do. And being that I'm doing something you can't do, that means I need worship from you. Right? But you start looking at this, right? So you look at him being the author, Ham, right? But you start seeing these magical arts being passed down, instructions, teachings, which means that in order for that to be passed down to your children, you will have to forsake the righteous and Yahuwah. You will have to, and your works will be unprofitable, unfruitful, and you will pass it to your generation. Right? You look at Ham, right? So this Bereshit, Aramaic Targums. The sons of Aramaic Proverbs, chapter 10. Aramaic Targum, Jonathan, chapter 10, 6-9. The sons of Ham, Cush, and Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. Right? These are all of his descendants he passed down his magical arts to. So when you start seeing all all these things that are in the earth, just understand that these people descend out, or they have the writings and instructions that were passed down, given to Ham by demons, and they were passed down to these generations today. So stop being ignorant and stop being foolish. Stop being a child. You know how a child does, and you see a child and it has like, you see someone on the table and you be like, don't touch that, and they reach out their hand and try to test you. Stop playing. How you say? Stop playing. You didn't hear what I said? And they smile at you when they do it. Yeah, stop playing. He said, this is not a game. And you're going to see. And the names of their provinces, Arabia, Egypt, and Ali, Haroth, and Canaan. The sons of Cush, Siva, Havilah, Sabbatah, Ramah, Sabbateka. It says the sons of Ramah, Sheba, Dedan, and the names of their provinces, the Sironites, the Indians, the Semarites, the Libyans, the Zignites, and the sons of the Marutanos, and Zermagad, and Mezeg. Cush begot Nimrod. He began to be a mighty sinner and a rebel on the earth before Yahuwah. So if he was a mighty rebel and a sinner before Yahuwah, that means he forsook Yahuwah and he forsook righteousness and the righteous, right? That's the only way. He come out from Ham, which Ham is supposed to teach, the teaching of his father, which knew I was the teacher of righteousness, but he did not. He taught him magical arts. So please, when you see somebody in your family who's practicing things, that you just understand that they were taught it. And these are all teachings that were passed down through generations for almost 6,000 years. So he was a mighty rebel before Yahuwah. Therefore, it is said, from the day the world was created, that there was none, there was from the day it was created, there has not been a mighty hunter and rebel like Nimrod before Yahuwah. Man, there's nobody like him. Nobody. Bereshit 10:1, ESV, the sons of Ham, Cush, Egypt, Put, Canaan. The sons of Cush, Seba, Havilah, Sabbatah, Ramah, Sabbateka. The sons of Ramah, Sheba, Dedan, Cush, father Nimrod. And he was the first on earth to be a mighty man. He was, a mighty man. And he was a mighty hunter before Yahuwah. Therefore, it is said, like Nimrod, a mighty hunter. Why would he say he'd be the first to be a mighty man? Because everybody died off. He killed everybody, but then he's like, you the first one to get some demons in you. You the first one to become a mighty man. You the first one to hearken to the teachings of Jaza and Azazel and the fallen. You the first one. Man, you became a mighty men of renown. How they say? Giant. So therefore it is said, like Nimrod, a mighty hunter before Yahuwah. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, Erech, Akkad, and Canaan. Calneh, in the city, in the land of Shinar. Right? The word for, how you say, Kam, or Ham, Kam is hot, is Kam. It means hot. That's what it means. It means hot. We just read it. He said he was inflamed. He was burned by the demon. It inflamed him on the inside. The demon inflamed him. It was hot. Then he said, "Is not my word like fire?" Just like Yahuwah told. He told in Yirmiyahu, he said, "It's not my word like fire." Yeah. He said it's hot. Calm. Right? He said he was inflamed by demons. Shadim. On the inside. By importunity. He paid attention to it. And guess what happened? That's what his name means. Ham, right? You got the word for Cush, right? Cush is black. Right? It says black. That's what his name means. Black. Right? He was black and he was inflamed. And he said black and burning. How you say? Black and hot. But then you start looking at it. You look at him. You look at a descendant from a teacher, Ham, who passed magical arts down to his family. And it's still here today. It ain't gone nowhere. It's still here. Right? And it says what? So you look at what? Mizraim. Mizraim. What do you have with Mizraim? It means the land of the Copts. Yeah, the land of the Copts. Double straights. The land of the Copts. The land of the Copts. That's where you dwell. He say Mizraim. Right? So the word for Nimrod means rebellion. His name means rebellion. He said since the day the earth was made, before the earth was made, he said ain't never been nobody as Nimrod, as rebellious as him. Valiant. Right? You see what you teaching magical arts and being inflamed by demons and passing to your generations does? It brings forth rebellion. Rebellion. It says what? The valiant. He's rebellious and valiant. And he was mighty at it. Right? The word for mighty hunter is Saeed. It says hunting game. Hunting, game hunter, hunter. You see that today. What do people do? They go in the forest and shoot animals for no reason. They just shoot them and hunt them and cut off their tusks. Use it for ivory. They cut off their paws, cut off their skin. They do all types of things, right? What do you mean? He said they're a mighty hunter. They do it for what? Sport. They do it for food. Right? He said what? They do it for lunch. They do it for lunch. Food. They are hunters. Right? They hunters. He says game hunted. And people don't look at this. They don't look at it because people don't want to actually understand why Yahuwah gave man every herb yielding seed for food. They reject it. They don't want it. Even today, in 2023 AD, they hate Bereshit chapter 1. What Yahuwah said originally when he made the world very good and good. They hate it still to this day. Some people do, some people don't. But some still hate it. They still do. But don't be a fool. This is Hebrews 3 and 5, 3 and 15. And it is said today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts as in a rebellion. So how do you know Nimrod, why his name was rebellion? Why do you think they rebelled? Because they hardened their hearts. They hardened their hearts against Nuach and his teachings of his father. They rejected the teaching of his father and the commandment of the month. They rejected the teaching of their father. They hated it. And they rebelled. Aleph Shamuel 15 to 23. For rebellion is a sin of divination. It's the sin of divination. It's just like practicing what? Witchcraft. This is the ESV version. And presumption as the iniquity and idolatry. So this is the Aleph Shamuel 15:22, Tanakh 19:17. It says, and Shamuel said, hath Yahuwah great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices, as in hearkening to the voice of Yahuwah? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice. Now you see in times past, when Ham took those magical books and those magical arts and he passed it to his children, all that stuff is rebellion. Then you start rebelling against Yahuwah. You start rebelling against his command. You start rebelling against your father, his teaching. You start rebelling against creation itself. You start rebelling against all the things that you created, and you start walking by your own imaginations. It says, and hearken the voice of Yahuwah. Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken in the fat of rams. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft. So when you see Nimrod's rebel, it says rebellion. His name means rebellion. Nimrod was a sorcerer. He was a practice of magic, sorcerer, to destroy, to rule, to oppress. He was a sorcerer. He was a wizard. He was a warlock. That's what he was. When you're talking about warlock. Now he was that they call a warlock, but we're talking about a person inflamed with shadim. And stubbornness is as idolatry and a teraphim, idol worship. He was stubborn in heart. He had idol worship. He was worshiping idols and a teraphim. He forsook Yahuwah in righteousness and the righteous. He forsook the teaching of his father. Nuach, his grandfather. When you're talking about his son, Ham passed to his children. Right? The word for rebellion in Aleph Shamuel is Mari. Rebellion, rebellious. It means bitterness. We talked about bitterness. He said all the waters were made bitter. But in Malachi, it made all the waters bitter. Who you think made all the waters bitter in the generations of Ham? Ham did it. He made all the waters bitter. It produced rebellion. That's what the word, it produced rebellion. It produced bitterness. the water that they were pouring out their descendants were all bitter, and it produced rebellion in his whole generation. It wasn't mingled with salt. That stuff was mingled with demonic powers and shadim. So this is word for witchcraft is kesem. It means divination, witchcraft. Yeah, rebellion is a sin of witchcraft. Yeah, witchcraft. We're talking about using ancient books and channeling spirits and demons to make yourself rich, to get more silver and gold, to get more women, to put a spell on somebody. They practice these things in the woods. They be casting spells using roots and all types of things to cast spells on women, to lock them in a house, have them in there, they can't even move. All these things. They can cast spell on you on YouTube. You listen to somebody who practices magical arts and they chant one of their things at you and you get it in your head. Guess what happened? And you ain't got, he said, you ain't got the ruach of Yahuwah on the inside. They gonna take over your mind. How you running in a trance. They give you a hypercube and something, and they put it in your hand, a woman. Next thing you know, she got you channeling her and following her everywhere she go. Got you going through a portal. These people are witchcraft. They practice magic here. Most people don't know about it because they're ignorant. And when you ignorant, guess what happens? It's a great evil because they're going to bring you to evil because you ignorant. And it says what? False nabi'im. False prophet. That's what Kevin said. False nabi'im, nabiyahs rose among the people, right? Because they practice witchcraft. They practice divination. It says divination, oracles, right? Divine sentence. They can do that. They can do it through witchcraft and sorcery. Divination. They can find out the future and things that's happening through other means. They don't have to inquire of Yahuwah. They can do it through other ways. They can do it through other ways. The word for stubbornness is patsar. It means to press, to push. People say sin of idolatry is like patsar, like pushing. Yeah, they got a movie, what they call Push? They got a movie called Push, where they have a pusher. It's a man, he turned his eyes, he able to push people to shoot people. He able to push people to do things that get two people to shoot each other. Like they call them pushers. He said push, to press, arrogance, right? To peck at. He would say a peck, what do you mean peck at? To stun, to do it, you mean peck at. Remember we talked about the spirit of jealousy and envy? He said it continually prods at you to destroy the person you envy. It continually pecks at you. He said because you got stubbornness in your heart. You worshiping an idol. All these are all parts of these things. All of it. To press, to push, to press. Pushers. Some people are pushers today. Right? The word for idolatry is teraphim, or teraphim, right? Teraphim, it means idolatry, idols, of family idols. The whole lineage of Ham were a bunch of idol worshippers, stubborn idol worshippers, witchcraft, sorcerers. It says king, kind of idol, a household shrine to worship. You see household shrines today. You people have shrines in their home and all types of things. You have a shrine inside of your mind. I got a shrine inside of my mind for my old life, my old past life. I have a shrine inside of my mind with all my trophies and things that I accomplished. I have a shrine inside of my mind from all the things that I did. I built a whole shrine for myself in my mind. And it causes you not even to bring forth fruit. It says a healer. People saying they can't heal nobody. I said, okay. They can. It'll be temporary though. It's like something that, how you say? It'll happen, but it won't happen. It will be temporary. It'll be like pharmakeia. How you say? Temporary. A temporary fix. Like these pills and all these things that people take. It's all sorcery. Because that's what pharmakeia means. It's sorcery to take over your mind. That's all it is. Take over your thought process. Powders, right? Yeshayahu 1 and 2. Hear, O Shamayim, and give ear, O earth, for Yahuwah has spoken. Children I have reared up and brought up. I watched you grow up. Remember he said, I watched you grow up. Your mother was a Hittite, your father was an Amorite. You came out of land of Canaan. I washed you and cleansed you. He said, what? I reared you up. I brought you up. But they have rebelled against me. You rebelled like Nimrod, like Nimrod. Nimrod, you rebelled. You're rebelling against me. The ox knows his owner, and the donkey its master's crib. But Yasharal does not know. My people do not understand. You don't even understand that I raised you. I brought you up, and you rebelling against me, my word. How? The word for rebel is pasha. It means to rebel, to transgress, to break away, to apostatize, to quarrel. Why do you think people quarreling today? Why do you think people fake like they're not quarreling? He said they become peace. Like, yeah, we're not trying to do this, we're not trying to do that. They still quarreling in their heart though. They still quarreling. It says rebel, transgress. He said you rebelling. He said you rebelling, just like Nimrod. He said you got idol worship. It's sin of witchcraft. People practicing spells and magic spells. People saying, why do people do this today? Why do you think a child rebels against the father and the mother? Because they want to go do something opposite of what their father and mother told them to do. That's the only reason. And they practicing divination or witchcraft to do it. He said, why? Because it's against everything Yahuwah said in the beginning. But it says, this is the book of Enoch. The book of Enoch, chapter 8. It says, moreover, Azazel taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates and fabrication of mirrors. Right, so you look at all these things that you see today. It says what? They taught it. They taught these things. These are all super beings from another world. Azazel. These are all people who invaded the earth. Yeah, these people invaded this place. They came here and invaded. And it says they made mirrors. What do you see today? You're like, nah, this ain't the same world. Okay. And the workmanship of bracelets and ornaments, and used in the use of paint, the beautifying of the eyebrows, and the use of stones of every valuable and select thing. What do you think the health and beauty industry is? He said, I desire her before health and beauty. I desire her before all these things, before stones, before all these weapons and all these things that people have. Before all that, I desire wisdom before all of that. Because the light that goeth from her will never go without. This light right here that you see that they're teaching will put you out. This will put your light out. It says the use of paint. What do you think paint? What are you talking about the use of paint, bracelets, and ornaments? What do you mean? What are you talking about? You talking about makeup? What do you think? Where do you think Vidal Sassoon and all these things come from? Dior. He was like, what is this? Who taught it to you? Azazel taught it. This teaching's still here. It says the beautifying the eyebrows and the use of stones of every valuable and select kind. Where do you think they get all these things from today? That's why he said, I love wisdom before any stone or precious jewel. He says, and all sorts of dyes, so that the world became altered, because it wasn't supposed to be like that. The world, you're living in altered reality. You know how they say, they call it an altered reality, or he say a parallel world. This world has been altered. This world has been changed, people. This world has been completely altered. Like I told you before, we're not supposed to be living like this. This world has been altered. It says, impiety increased, fornication multiplied, and they transgressed and corrupted all their ways. What do you think going to happen? It says, Yahuwah told us to be fruitful and multiply. Replenish the earth. But guess what we being fruitful and multiply in? Impiety. That's evil. Fornication. Transgression. That's what we're multiplying in. That's what we're being fruitful and multiplying in. Rebellion. We're multiplying in rebellion and idolatry. Verse 3 says, Amazarach taught all sorcerers and diviners of roots. So what do you think to teachings that Ham passed down to his sons? Mizraim put Canaan. Who do you think he passed down to? What do you think Nimrod got his teaching? He became a mighty sorcerer from. Where do you think he got it from? The world has been altered. People are like, how he got it? He took the instructions of Amazarach and he gave it to his children. He took the instructions of a Malachi that wasn't supposed to be teaching it and gave it to him of a fallen demon, of a fallen one. It says armorers taught the solutions of sorcery. He taught these teachings to his children. Not the teachings of Yahuwah, not your Nuwak's teaching. He found instructions, and the demons inflamed him and taught him and instructed him all types of sin, and he taught it to his children. He wrote it down. And it says Barakal taught the observers of the stars. Like you look at all the Kukabim in the yard. The stars move all throughout the constellations. They taught the movement of the stars for one purpose. One purpose only, for signs and for worship. Not for discerning between days, months, and years. Yes, they can do that, but they also do it for worship of these stars. That's why all your things, your products, and everything you own is number. Is how you say? Is numbered. It's named by a star. I know people don't believe it. Just look at all the stuff you got, and you see. There's no way you can get away from it. People are like, I'm gonna get away from it. No, you're not. You can't. You live in a world, but you're not of it. But I'm just telling you, I'm opening your eyes up to your world, your altered reality. This Barakal taught the observers of stars. It says Aki Baal taught signs. That's what you see today. He taught signs. Tamiel taught astronomy. Astronomy. Right? When they taught all these things, and guess what happened? People start worshiping it. That's what happens. You start worshiping it. Anything opposite of what Yahuwah said, he said, I made the world and it was good and very good. He said, who told you about that? You notice how Satan, when he was in the garden, who told you about you were naked? Who told you about flesh and all that? Who told you about nakedness? It's all about teachings, people. Who told you that? Who's teaching you? And it says, and our Asar Da'al taught the motions of the moon. Right, you see this today. Everybody, eclipses and things that people know, blue moons, all these things are all motions of the moon. He taught that to people. All these things, guess what men started to do? Yahuwah made it, he said it's going to be for signs, days, years, and appointed times to worship Yahuwah. But you know what they do? For signs, days, and years to worship the moon. For signs, days, and years to worship the stars. For signs, days, and years, they worship these things. There's a difference between learning the time sequence to worship Yahuwah and to know when the appointed time is, rather than worshiping the stars and the Kukumim who are lower than him. That's what they were doing. It says, and men, guess what it says? And men being destroyed cried out, and their voice reached to Shemaim. He started crying out to Yahuwah. Why? Because all these things are being taught, and guess what people are doing? They're rebelling against Yahuwah. They're rebelling. He said, guess what he told Yakaziel in chapter 9? He said, set a mark on those who sigh and cry for the abominations that are in the earth. He said, having the seal, Yahuwah knows those who are his. He said, set a seal on their forehead. You're living in the same world. You're living in the same world. So this is Bereshit 10:22. The son of Shem, Elam, Asher, and Arphaxad. These are all Shem's lineage. So we just talked about Ham's lineage. This is Shem's lineage. Lud, Aram, the sons of Aram, Uz, Hul, Gether, and Mash. Arphaxad fathered Shelah, and Shelah fathered Eber. This is Shem's lineage. So you got Ham's lineage. But let's see what happened with this guy named Arphaxad. Let's see what happened. This is Jubilees, Volume 2, Pseudepigrapha. It says Canaan's discovery of astrological lore. Right? It says, on the 29th Jubilee of the first week, at its beginning, Arphaxad took a wife, and her name was Rasua, daughter of Suzanne, daughter of Elam, as a wife, right? It says, and she bore a son for him in the 3rd year of that week, and he called his name Canaan. And he grew, and the child grew, and his father taught him writing. And he went forth in order that he might seek a place where he could build a city. So look at his son did. He wanted to go see where he can build a city, right? Let's see what happened. And he found a writing. And he found a writing, which the ancestors engraved on stone. Now you seeing today, I'm sure somebody in the world found a writing. Like somebody he sent me they found a Torah that's $50 million, ancient book. Yeah, they finding these books, they stones. People saying, why they going to archaeological sites and digging up things in the city of Ur, or in the Chaldees, or in Greenland, or in Antarctica? Why are they digging up things all throughout Rock Lake, or in Ohio, in Ohio Valley, or things over in Kush, or in Machu Picchu, or in Easter Isle? Why do you think they do all these things? Why do you think they uncovering all these things? Or in Indonesia, in ancient lost temples, the city of Z, and all these things. Why do you think they're doing that? Studying ancient Mu and Lemuria, and what some call Atlantis, and all these things. Why do you think they're doing that? These are all cities. Amazingly, these cities ain't here no more. But people researching them. Why? Because it has something in it they want. An ancient tablet. Let's see what they found. And he read what was in it, and he transcribed it. So he read it and wrote it down. He translated it. And he sinned because of what was in it, since there was in it the teachings of the watchers. It had the teachings of the watchers. It had the teachings of the Malachi, of Azazel, Asmarek, Barakal, right? It had the teachings of Tamiel, right? It had the teachings of them in it. And he sinned because he followed the instructions that were written in it, by which they used to observe omens of the sun and the moon and the stars within all the signs of Shamaim. So he found it. He found how they do witch magic, sorcerer spells during the times of the equinoxes and the shifting of the signs. He found how they do it. He found how when the planets align and what to do at that time when it comes to the fallen Malachi and the demons. He found all these things. He found when to sacrifice people and sacrifice things and get power. He found out, and he sinned. He started doing it. He started practicing it. Guess what happened? And he copied it down, and he wrote it down. But he did not tell about it because he feared to tell Nuach. You know why? Because Nuach was the teacher of righteousness. He taught against the teachings of Shemjaza, Azazel, and all the things that they were teaching. He was going against them. So why wouldn't he be angry? It said Nuach about it, lest he be angry with him because of it. That's the only reason. That's the only reason people hide stuff. It's like, what you doing? What you read? What's that for? Because you don't want nobody to know. But he said he became a sinner. So this book of Jubilees, 11, the history of Ru and Abraham. And in the 35th Jubilee of the third week, in the first year, therefore Ru took to himself a wife, and her name was Orah, the daughter of Ur, the son of Chesed. And she bare him a son, and he called him Serug. And in the 7th year of this week, in this Jubilee, and the sons of Nuach began to war with each other. They began to war. They began to fight because they worship idols. That's why you fighting. You quarreling. Remember we talked about that? Yeah, he just talked about it. He said they fighting and warring because they're quarreling. To take captive and to slay each other and to shed blood of men on the earth. Why? Because they're worshiping idols and they're rebelling. How you say rebelling? Rebellion. Nuach. They rebelling against Nuach. They rebelling. Nimrud. They're rebelling. It says to take captive and slay each other and to shed blood on the earth and to eat blood and to build strong cities and walls and towers, and individuals began to exalt themselves above the Goyim, the nations, above the nation, and to be found being beginnings of the kingdoms. What do you think they're doing now? Notice how the world shifting and the world changing. Right now you got different cities and different cities that's getting ready to be built. You got Belmont. You got Asgardia. You got all these other different UAS. Right? You got all these different cities now be forming, different alliances. All these things taking place. Why? Because we're now moving into that time again. And guess what happened? It began to exalt themselves above nations and to become kingdoms and to go to war, people against people and nation against nation and city against city. You know what Yahushua told you? Nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. How is that going to happen? And it says, and all began to do evil and to acquire arms and to teach their sons war. Why would you teach your sons war? Who taught you that? Azazel. They following the teachings of Azazel. They following the teachings of the Malachi who teach sorcery. They found the books. They found the tablets and stones. They found the writings. They were inflamed by the demons, and they started teaching it. They're teaching it. And they began to capture cities and sell male and female slaves. That's why we get slavery come from. Why do you think people are taken captive? We just talked about in the Dabari Hayamin, 2 Chronicles 28, when they fought against Yehuda and Yasharal, and then they tried to take the women captive and make them their slaves. And the Nabi stood in the midst of them and stopped them. He said, man, your ways become perverse. Don't you got your own sins against Yehuda? Didn't he say that? People are like, oh, this ain't nothing new. It's the same thing today. Why do you think there's a sex traffic trade today? Why do you think people getting snatched up today? Women getting snatched up and taken across country and renditioned across the border. There's more women, black, they say brown-skinned women getting taken more than anything. They snatching you up. And people want to sit around and act like everything's okay. No, everything's not okay in this world. It's not. I remember seeing a story in the city where a woman was walking down the street and two men were following the car, and they tried to kidnap her. Yeah, she was brown-skinned. It says, and the son of Kesed, built a city in Arah in the Chaldees and called its name after its own name and the name of his father. And they made themselves molten images, sin of idolatry. It's just like it. It's stubbornness. It's witchcraft. And they made for themselves, and they began to make graven images and unclean simulacra, these are similitudes, and malignant spirits assisted them and seduced them into committing transgression and uncleanness. That's what spirits gonna do. When you start doing evil, the spirit's gonna enhance your might. It ain't gonna be koach or nakuach by the knowledge of Yahuwah. It's gonna be koach, nakuach by the spirit and instructions of demons of Shadim. They assist you. They're gonna assist you. They like a basketball court. Pass you the ball. They'll throw an assist that you can score. It says, and Prince Mustama exerted himself to do all this. He sent forth the other spirits, those which were put under his hand, to do all manner of wrong and sin and all manner of transgression. And he grew and dwelt in Ur of the Chaldees, near to the father of his wife's mother, and he worshipped idols. And he took himself a wife in the 36th Jubilee in the 5th week, in the 1st year thereof, and her name was Milcah, and the daughter of Kabir, and the daughter of his father's brother. And she bare him Nahor in the 1st year of this week. And he grew and dwelt in Ur of the Chaldees, and his father taught him the researches of the Chaldees. So he got people teaching war, teaching magical arts, finding secret books, teaching all these things. And guess what? The research of the Chaldees. And guess what it says? To divine and agor or divination. He says rebellion is a sin of divination according to the signs of Shamaim. They're divining according to the signs. So when the signs of the Shamaim move to a certain sequence, when certain planets align, when certain eclipses align, when certain things align in the earth, they do magic spells. This is the same world. They do magic spells and they offer sacrifices, or they sacrifice a human being. Or use dark energy or some type of energy outside of Yahuwah's Ruach. Outside of his neshama. They're doing things outside of him. Worship, but through idol worship, through rebellion. That's why these practices and things happen in the earth today. This is Bereshit 36:1. These are the generations of Esau. That is Edom. Esau took his wives from the Canaanites, Aydah and the daughter of Elon the Hittite, and Ohilamabah, the daughter of Anah, the daughter of Zibeon the Hivite, and Basmith, Yishmael's daughter, and the sister Nebaioth. So he took wives from people who rebelled against Yahuwah, whose descendants come out from people who learn things out of books and secret arts of the Malaki, the fallen. They come out from the fallen. Bereshit 36:20. These are the sons of Ser, the Horite, the inhabitants. So we continue on to verse 20. These are the sons of Ser, the Horite, the inhabitants of the land of Lotan, Shabal, Zibeon, Anah, Dishon, Ezer, Dishon. These are the chiefs of the Horites, the son of Ser, in the land of Edom. The sons of Lotan were Hori and Heman. And Lotan's sister was Timnah. These are the sons of Shabal, Alavan, Malahath, Ebal, Shepho, and Onam. These are the sons of Zibeon, Aydah, Enam. He is the Enam who found the hot springs in the wilderness, as he pastured the donkeys in Zibeon, his father. These are the children of Enam, the Dishon, Oholibamah, the daughter of Enam. These are the sons of Dishon, Hedeman, Ishban, Ethan, Kiran. These are the sons of Ezer, Bilhan, Zavan, Akan. These are the sons of Dishan, Uz, Aran. These are the chiefs of the Horites. And the chiefs of Lotan, Shobal, Zebeor, Anah, Dishon, Ezer, and Dishan. These are the chiefs of the Horites, chiefs by chiefs in the land of Seir. These are the kings who reigned in the land of Edom. So these are kings that reigned in the land of Edom before any king reigned over Yasharal. This is Israelites, but Yasharal. Bela, the son of Beor. Bela, the son of Beor, reigned in Edom. Right, so when you start looking at the Esau, you start looking at the Adumia, you start looking at who ruled. They talk about the son of Beor ruled in Edom, Bela. And it says the name of the city was Dehaba. Bela died, and Yabad, the son of Zerah, Bazara, reigned in his place. Yabad died, and Hushan of the land of the Temanites reigned in his place. Right. So you start we're looking at him. Why? Because we're looking at Bela, the son of Beor. Why? Because he come from the lineage of Esau, Asu, in the land of Edom. But why is Asu so important? Because Esau comes from something. This is Bereshit 11 and 10. These are the generations of Shem. When Shem was 100 years old, he fathered Arphaxad. We talked about him. 2 years after the flood. And Shem lived after he fathered Arphaxad 500 years, and he had other sons and daughters. When Arphaxad lived 35 years, he fathered Shelah. And Arphaxad lived after he fathered Shelah 403 years, and he had sons and daughters. And when Shelah had lived 30 years, he fathered Eber. Right? We understand these things, right? But it says, and Shelah lived after he fathered Eber 403 years, and had sons, right? He had sons and daughters. And when Eber had lived 34 years, he fathered Peleg. And Eber lived after he fathered Peleg 430 years, and had other sons and daughters. When Peleg had lived 30 years, he fathered Ru. And Peleg lived after he fathered Ru 209 years, and had other sons and daughters. And Ru lived 32 years, and he fathered Serug. He fathered Serug. We just talked about Serug. Right. What did Serug do? Serug studied divination, the signs and the Shamaim, and all these things to do what? To worship, idol worship, and all types of divination. And Ru lived after he fathered Serug 207 years, and he had sons and daughters. And Serug lived 30 years, and he fathered Nahor. Now you're getting down to a lineage that people are familiar with. And Serug lived after he fathered Nahor 200 years, and he had other sons and daughters. And when Nahor had lived 29 years, he fathered Terah. And Nahor lived after he fathered Terah 119 years, and had other sons and daughters. And when Terah had lived 70 years, he fathered Abram, Nahor, and Haran. He's talking about your father was a Hittite, your mother was an Amorite, and you came from the land of Canaan. And guess what he said? I raised you up. I cut your umbilical cord. I cut you away from there. I cleansed you off. I washed you. I scrubbed you with melach. I covered you with a garment. And what did I do after that? I watched you grow. I decked you with silver and gold. I gave you everything you need. I gave you all the finest wheat and fuel. He said, but then you start to trust in your flesh, your beauty. Before you used to trust in your will. Right? But then you start trusting in health and beauty, right? And he says, and follow Abram and Nahor. So now you see Sarug, right? We understand. And guess what Sarug means? Sarug's name means branch. You see what the branch of Sarug started to do? Divination, witchcraft, right? He started to study the magical arts and the signs of Shamayim. He started doing that. Agor. Through idol worship. And that branch, he said that branch, that tree, that lineage, that fruit that came from this branch is still bearing today. That branch of Ham is still bearing fruit today. Bad fruit. That branch from Canaan, our Foxout son, is still bearing fruit today. That teachings, that water, that bitter water from the beginning, from the demons Shadim that were teaching, from Azazel all the way down to the Malach who were teaching, are still bearing fruit and watering people today. In the mind. So this Jubilees, Pseudepigrapha, Volume 2, 11 and 1. It says, in the 35th Jubilee, in the third week, in the first year thereof, Ru took a wife, and her name was Orah, daughter of the son of Chesed, and she bore a son. So this is another version of it. Right? The only reason we're reading another version of it, because I want you to see the different way it sounds. It's the same thing, but it's a different version. And it says what? The daughter of the Chesed, and she bore a son to him and called his name Saro. And then in the 7th year, the week of Jubilee, the sons of Nuach began fighting in order to take captive and kill each other and to pour out blood upon the earth and to eat blood and to build fortified cities and walls and towers so that one man will be raised up over the people. That one man will be raised up over the people. Why do you think Yahushua came? He said, my servant shall be do wisely in Yeshayahu 52. He shall be exalted and very high. Why do you think he said, if the Son of Man be lifted up, I'm going to draw all men to me? Because of these people right here. He said, I'm going to draw all men to me. So they can start following the instructions of my father Yahuwah. But they keep following the instructions of Shem Jaza. So I got to be lifted up because now you see what they're doing. It says to set up the first kingdoms to go to war. That's all they're doing. You see people getting exalted today. Exalted on horses. Exalted up over the people. And guess what people doing? They worshiping these people. They worshiping. And people are like, where is this rebellion coming from? It coming from demons. It's not that hard. People say, oh, it's difficult to understand. And people, it says people against people, and nation against nation, and city against city. And everyone will act to do evil and acquire weapons in battle and to teach their sons war. Yahushua said, he said, I'm the Malach of peace. He totally opposite of this one man to be lifted up. Guess what he says? He says, and the son of Chesed, built a city. He says, sons of war. And they began to take captive a city and to sell male and female slaves. And the son of Chesed, built a city of the Chaldees, and he named it after his name and his father and his father's name. And they made for themselves molten images, and every one worshipped the icon. Don't they call people icons? Well, you're an icon of this generation. You're an icon. They worship the icon. Right? We don't get into that. But there's another person who sounds similar to the icon he built in the city. Which they made for themselves as a molten image. And they began making graven images and polluted likenesses. And cruel spirits assisted them and led them astray so that they might commit all sin and pollution. That's why it looks so beautiful. That's why it draws your eyes to it. And the prince Mastama acted forcibly to do all of this. And he sent other spirits to those who were under his hand to practice all error and sin and all transgression, to destroy the cause, to perish, and to pour out blood upon the earth. Therefore he called the name of it Sarah. Their lineage, the branch is still here. Sarog, because everyone had turned back to commit all sin and transgression. What was the sin and transgression? Idols, rebellion, witchcraft, lifting up one person above the people. All that was sin. Because where Yahuwah at and his son? In the Shamayim? And Yahuwah at his right hand? What you lifting up somebody else for? You can't lift, what you gonna do? Lift him up higher than me? I want to see you try to lift a man up from this earth higher than Yahuwah, who sits in the highest Shamayim. Try to lift him up. You've only gonna lift him up 10 feet. That's about it. This man lifted up, you can't even number it. The birth in Nahor, right? Same book. And he grew up and dwelt in Ur in the Chaldees near the father of his wife's mother. And he used to worship idols. Right? And he took a wife in the 36th Jubilee in the 5th week. And in the first year thereof, and her name was Melach, daughter of Kiber, the daughter of the father's brother. And she bore for him Nahor in the first year of that week. And he grew up and dwelt in Ur among the Chaldees. And his father taught him researches of the Chaldees in order to practice divination. Because you can research it. People say, I can research. Yeah. Research of the Chaldeans. In order to practice divination, they practice. Great are the works of Yahuwah, studied. Darash, practiced by those who delight in it. It's prayer and worship. But they were prayer and worship and practicing divination, astrology, and the signs of Shamayim. What was all these things doing? It was drawing people away from what? Worshiping the one who made the stars, and the Kugavim and the Yarg, and the sun, and the moon, and the stars. It's making people worship idols and human beings. That's what happens. To the signs of Shamayim, right? So this is Bereshith, right? Aramaic Targums, 25 to 34, Jonathan. Right? So we look at Nimrod, we look at Sarug, we look at Ham, right? We're looking at these people, Arphaxad, we look at this lineage, you see how they're finding all these teachings. You see the teachings of Azazel, you're finding these teachings and they're learning it. And they're writing it down and they're passing it to their children. And guess what happens? Bereshit 25, it says, we start looking at Beor. Remember we talked about Bela, the son of Beor. He reigned over Edom. But we want to know, why is Esau's lineage so important? Because Beor is the father of Balaam. But why would Balaam be who he is, right? It says, it first came out red, like a hairy cloak, all over. And they call his name Esau, because he was born fully completed, with hair of his head, beard, and teeth, and molars. Then his brother came forth, his hand holding on Esau's heel. And they called his name Yaakov. Yitzhak was 60 years old when she bore them. And when the boy grew, Asu became a skilled hunter, able to hunt birds and wild beasts, a man who would go out into the field to kill people. Yeah. He was a killer. How you say? The sons of Nuah began to war with each other, and the evil spirits assisted them, which means that Asu was rebellion. He was worshiping idols. He was following demons, Shadim. He was following teachings of Azazel. It says, and it was he who killed Nimrod, the son of Nimrod. But Yaakov became a man who was a perfect in his works, ministering in the schoolhouse of Eber, seeking instruction from before Yahuwah. Yitzhak loved Esau. He loved Esau. Because Esau wasn't in the house studying and reading and all that. He liked Esau because he was out in the field. He was out with there, right? Killing game, bringing back the money, bringing back the food, getting the things that I like, right? That's what I want to see. Yeah, Esau, get out there. Get it. Yeah. Grind, don't stop. You know how he loved him. That's what he loved. He loved that guy. But you see Yaakov, he like seeking the instructions of Yahuwah. He wasn't seeking the instructions of no demon. He wasn't seeking no instructions of Ham. He wasn't seeking no instructions of Azazel. He wasn't seeking no instructions of Barakah. Barakah, right? Teaching of sorcery and idolatry. You don't see no teaching of that. You see instructions of Yahuwah. It says, and Yitzhak loved Esau because there were deceptive words in his mouth. How you get deception words in your mouth? He said, Satan enter your mind like a smoke? And he teach you all types of sin. How you think you get deceptive words? That spirit of deceit. That's greed. But Rebekah loved Yaakov. It says, the day Abraham died, Yaakov boiled dishes and lentils and went in to comfort his father. Esau, because lentils were used as a dish for death. It says, Esau came from the country and he was exalted because he committed 5 transgressions. If he committed transgression, he was a spirit of rebellion and sorcery. And we read in Aleph Shamal, it says spirit of divination and sorcery. Right? Guess what it says? And it says, and Esau came from the country and he was exhausted because he had committed 5 transgressions in that day. He practiced idolatry, sin of witchcraft, and sorcery. He was rebellion. He shed innocent blood, rebellion. Right? He was a mighty hunter. He like Nimrod. He had gone in a betrothed maiden, a virgin. He had some sex that day. He had denied the life of the world to come, and he despised the birthright, all in the same day. He was moving. He was a mighty sinner, a mighty sorcerer. And he was rebellious. So this is a lineage that Balaam, how you say? Beor came from. The son of Beor, right? And Asu, the son of Yaakov, let me taste, and I pray of the red dish. For I am exhausted. Therefore they called him Edom, because he was red. Yaakov said, sell me your birthright today, as on the day that you are to inherit. And Asu said, behold, I am about to die, and I shall not live again in another world. So you're going to die in this world. You don't think you're going to live in another world today? Do you have that mindset? Has Satan taught you that you ain't going to live in another world? How he trying to get you to doubt that you're going to live in another world? Has he done that today? Yeah, he's doing that today. And you see people, teachers, evangelists, Nabi'im, shepherds, Ra'ah, whatever y'all want to call yourself, you're saying the same thing. You're saying that people that believe in Yahushua Mashiach, you're saying that. You're trying to convince them that they're not going to live. That's the word. How you say? Yahushua said, I come that you might have Kai, life. Living water, not wormwood. But here we go. And it says what? He said, sell me your birthright. But in verse 32 it says, Asu said, behold, I am about to die, and I shall not live again in another world. So of what use is this birthright to me, or a portion in the world to come? But Yaakov said, swear to me on that day. So he swore to him and sold his birthright to Yaakov. And Yaakov then gave bread and a dish of lentils to Asu. And he ate and drank. And he rose and went his way. Then thus Asu espoused his birthright in a portion in the world to come. So this is Bereshit 36:1. These are the generations of Asu. Esau. You just talked about Beor, right? The son of Beor, he said, this is the lineage of Edom and Esau. When he took his wife, he came from Beor. Beor ruled over the Edom. But then now you're seeing, these are the generations of Esau. This is Bereshit 36:1. Esau took wives of the Canaanites, Aydah. It says, daughter of Elon, the Hittite. Oholibah, the daughter of Anah, the daughter of Zibeon, the Hivite. In the basement, Ishmael's daughter, the sister of Nehorbah, right? And you go all the way to, we're reading it again. Why? Because you need to see it. Bereshit 36:9. These are the generations of Esau, the father of Edomites, in the hill country of Seir. These are the names of the sons of Esau's sons. Eliphaz. Now these are the sons of a rebellious lineage. Of rebellion, witchcraft, sorcery, divination, astrology, all types of rebellion against Yahuwah, right? It says, Eliphaz, the son of Aydah, wife of Asu. Uriel, the son of Basman, the wife of Asu. The son of Eliphaz were Timan, Omar, and Zepho. Keep that person in mind. Gatam and Kenaz. Timnah was a concubine of the sons of Uriel, Nahath, Zerah, Shema, and Mizah. These are the sons of Basmath, Asu's wife. These are the sons of Aholama, the daughter of Anam, the daughter of Zibeon, Esau's wife. She bore Esau, Jerush, Jalam, and Korah. These are the chiefs of the sons of Asu, the sons of Eliphaz, the firstborn of Esau, the chief of Timnan, Omar, and Zepho. Kenaz, Korah, Katam, and Amalek. These are the chiefs of Eliphaz in the land of Edom. These are the sons of Aydah. These are the sons of Ruel, Esau's sons, the chief, Nahath, Zerah, Shema, and Mizah. These are the chiefs of Ruel in the land of Edom. These are the sons of Basmath, Esau's wife. These are the sons of Aholama, Esau's wife, and the chief, Jeshush, Jalam, and Korah. These are the chiefs of Aholabama, the daughter of Anah, Esau's wife. These are the sons of Esau that is in Edom. And these are their chiefs, right? So we're looking at who? This person named Zepho, right? Right. He's one of the chiefs of Teman, right? Right. But it says right here, Bereshit 36 and 20, these are the sons of Sarah the Horite, right? Only reason we're looking at this again, why? Because you're starting to look at who? This person right here. We skip down. These are the kings who reigned in the land of Edom. Before any king reigned over of Yasharal, Israel. Bela, the son of Beor. They all come from a rebellious lineage. People want to know why people are learning things and why things are passed down. Bela, the son of Beor, right? The word Beor means burning. It means burning. It means a lamp, right? The father of Balaam, the father of Balaam, what they call Balaam. It means burning. That's what his name means. Now, you see Ham's lineage, you see Cush, it means hot. Then you see the actual, it says the Shadim inflamed Ham on the inside. He was trying to become a mighty one, a god in front of everybody by bringing these, how you say, remember they studied the Chaldees, studied the stars and all these things in astrology. They studied magical arts, and he tried to pull energy from the stars and show it to man. You know how they do with you see the magic tape, and they do they show you the stars. You notice how stars come out when they do like their little wands and stuff? They're trying to mesmerize you. Why? Because these are all things so they can become an idol, an Elohim in your mind. But it says a lamp. Right? This is Book of Yasher 61:24. And at the revolution of a year, what we know is a revolution of a year, 364 days. The troops of, it says, Africa continued coming to the land of Kittim to plunder as usual. And Zepho, the son of Eliphaz, heard the report. And he gave orders concerning them, and he fought with them. And they fled before him. And he delivered the land of Kittim from them. And the children of Kittim saw the valor of Zepho, and the children of Kittim resolved, and they made Zepho king over them. That's what they did. They put a person from the lineage of Edom over them, of Esau, Asu. And he became king over them, and while he reigned, they went to subdue the children of Tubal and all the surrounding islands. And their king, Zepho, went at their head, and they made war with Tubal and the islands, and they subdued them. And when they returned from the battle, they renewed his government for him. And they built for him a very large place for his royal habitation and seat. And they made a large throne for him. And Zepho reigned over the whole land of Kittim and over the whole land of Italia 50 years. Right, so Zepho made king. And it says, this book of Yasher 63, 21 through 28. And Anges and Lucas, his brother, arrayed all their forces, about 800,000 men against the children of Kittim. And the children of Kittim said to Zepho, pray for us to the Elohim of thy ancestors. He would say, why people bring people on to your area, to your place? Because they know you have a connection. Because they know you have a connection to somebody. Who did Zepho have a connection to? Asu, who came out from the loins of Yitzhak and Yaakov, who came out of the loins of Abraham. What did Asu do? Esau. That's where Zepho came from, down the lineage of Abraham. It says, pray for us to the Elohim of our ancestors, Elohim of thy ancestors. Peradventure, he may deliver us from the hand of the Angias. Now, notice they say pray to us according to the ancestors and the teachings that our facts had found hidden within a place where he was trying to build a city, his son Canaan. He's saying pray to the Elohim of your fathers, and that he may deliver us from the hand of the Angies and his army. For we have heard that he is a great Elohim, and that he delivers all who trust in him. All who trust in him. They that trust in Yahuwah will understand the truth. Amazingly, these people looking on at this person who come down a lineage of a rebellious household. Right? And he says right here, and Zepho heard their words. And Zepho sought Yahuwah, and he said, Yahuwah Elohim of Abraham, Yitzhak, my ancestors. Because why he said my ancestors. Why he say Yaakov? But he said my ancestors. Notice he's acknowledging the God Elohim of his fathers. Yitzhak, Yaakov is his brother. How you say? Comes from the, right? So people don't understand that. It says, this day I know that thou art a true Elohim, and all the gods of the nations are vain and useless. Why? Because people that worship other gods telling you to call them the true Elohim. He said, I know they're worthless. They're useless. They're futile. This is a person who don't even do the practices of Yahuwah. But the people telling him, you can call on him because you have a direct connection to Abraham. You come down a lineage of Asu, Esau, who has a direct connection to Abraham. It says, remember now this day unto thy covenant with Abraham, our father. Notice he knew how to pray to Yahuwah, Elohim. Right, just like today, people worship other gods, but they know how to pray to Yahuwah, Elohim. And guess what happens? It says, which our ancestors related to unto us, and do graciously with me this day for the sake of Abraham, Yitzhak, our fathers, and save me and the children of Kittim from the hand of the king of, it says, Africa, who comes against us for battle. And guess what happened? And Yahuwah hearkened to the voice of Zepho. He listened to the descendant from Asu, from Esau. He listened to a rebellious house. He did. And he had regard for him on the account of Abraham and Yitzhak. That's why. That's the only reason he had regard for him. Because he connected to Yitzhak and Abraham. And Yahuwah delivered Zepho and the children of Kittim from the hand of the Angies and his people. Who did it? Yahuwah did it. And Zepho fought against Angies and the king of Africa and all his people on that day. And Yahuwah gave all the people of the Angies into the hands of the children of Kittim. And the battle was severe upon Angies. And Zepho smote all the men of Angies and Lucas, his brother, with the edge of the sword. And there fell from them unto the evening of that day about 400,000 men. Yeah, he came from the lineage of Asu. Because he had a connection with Yitzhak and Abraham, who did not worship, and who did not rebel, and who did not worship the Shemaku Miniyard, who did not practice divination, who did not practice magic and magical arts according to the sun, moon, and the stars, according to the procession of the signs of astrology. He did not. He said, I know what they do is idols. I know it's useless. But I know you're going to do it. This is Book of Yashar 64, 1 through 5. And Balaam, the son of Beor, was at that time with the Angies in the battle. So where he was at? He was with Angies in the battle. And when he saw that the foe prevailed, he was with Angies. He was with the people that Zepho, who come from the same lineage, was fighting. And guess what happened? Because this Balaam is very crafty, right? And Balaam, the son of Beor, was at the time with Angies in the battle. And when he saw that the foe prevailed over the Angies, he fled from there and came to Kittim. So anytime somebody lose, Balaam leaving. He's like, man, I'm going to the best one. Anybody who best, I'm going. I'm right there. Anybody. And Zepho and the children of Kittim received him with great honor. And Zepho knew Balaam's wisdom. So Balaam is wise. And Zepho gave unto Balaam many gifts, and he remained with him. Because Balaam, everywhere he goes, he gets money. He goes from one place, they lose, he goes to the best, he goes to another team. He be like, yeah, man. And they give him all types of gifts and money. Right? It's like the people be traveling all across the world, be doing things, and they get money for it. And guess what he do? He go there and they give him money. They give him honor because of his wisdom. And when Zepho had returned from the war, he commanded all the children of Kittim to be numbered who had gone to the battle with him. And behold, not one was missed. And Zepho rejoiced at this thing. And he renewed his Malkuth, his kingdom, and he made a feast to all the subjects. But Zepho remembered not Yahuwah and considered not that Yahuwah had helped him in the battle. Just like we do today. How many times you don't pray to Yahuwah and you worshiping and you doing all types of things, he delivered you, and then you end up forgetting that he helped you. You forgot. He said, you forgot. He said, my son, do not forget the commandment of your father and the teaching of your mother. He said, you forgot. Already. I just need you this one time. That's all I need you for. It says, and that he had delivered him and his people from the hand of the king of Africa, but still walked in the ways of the children of Kittim and the wickedness of the children of Esau. How many people do that today? People still do that today. And serve other gods. People still do that today. Practice divination and idolatry and still call on Yahuwah, and Yahuwah still deliver and still help them. Which his brethren, the children of Asu, had taught him. Who? They taught him to serve other Elohims. They taught him wickedness and sorcery and witch. They taught him. It is therefore said, from the wicked goes forth wickedness. And Zepho reigned over all the children of Kittim securely, but knew not Yahuwah, who had delivered him and his people from the hand of the king of Africa. And the troops of Africa came no more to Kittim to plunder as usual, for they knew the power of Zepho, who had smitten them all at the edge of the sword. So Angies was afraid of Zepho and the son of Eliphaz and the children of Kittim all the days. And it says, at that time, when Zepho had returned from war, and when Zepho had seen how he had prevailed over all the people of Africa and had smitten them in battle with the edge of the sword, then Zepho advised with the children of Kittim to go to Mizraim to fight with the sons of Yaakov and with Pharaoh and the king of Mizraim. You see that? You call on the sons of the Elohim of your fathers, but then you pray, you still keep the idols and the worship of the other gods, and then after you win the battle and you forget Yahuwah, you end up going to fight with the very people who believe in the same Elohim. Your sons of Yaakov. The book of Yashar 64, 24 to 23. And all the Mizraims said unto the children of Yasharal, remain you here together in your stand, and we will go and fight against the children of Asu and Ishmael. And if these kings should prevail over us, then come you all together upon them and assist us And the children of Yasharal did so. And Zephon, the son of Eliphaz, the son of Asu, the king of Kittim, and Hadad, the son of Bedad, the king of Edom, and all their camps, and all the children of the east, and the children of Ishmael, and the people in numerous as the sand, encamped together in the valley of Pathros, opposite the Takpanes. And Balaam, the son of Beor, because Beor come from what? These all people come from Edom, Isu. But it says right here, it says the son of Beor, the Syrian. They call him the Syrian. Where did the Syrians come from? Because it says the son of Beor, the Syrian. Where did the Syrians come from? It came from Sarug, down the loins of the Chaldees. Down the loins of the Chaldees. Remember Sarug, what did he learn? Divination, magical arts. He learned what? The signs of the Shamayim, idol worship. It says, son of Beor, the Syrian, was there to camp at Zephon. For he came to the children of Kittim to battle, and Balaam was a highly honored in the eyes of Zephon and his men. And Zephon said to Balaam, try by divination. Let me guess. Try by calling on Yahuwah. He said, try by divination for us, that we may know who will prevail in the battle with the Egyptians. Notice Zephon ain't calling on Yahuwah no more. He calling on Balaam. He said, because he honored him by his wisdom. What was his wisdom in? Agor, divination, astrology, understanding the suns and moon and the stars, and understanding how to get power and move things and to channel things and demons and spirits. That's what Balaam had power to do. Balaam had wisdom to do that. He was well honored. They gave him gifts and money. People wonder why Peter said they were following the way of Balaam after greed, because Balaam channeled divination and spirit channeling and all types of sorcery and magic according to astrology and the signs of the Shamayim for money, for gifts, for greed. He showed his gift, his wisdom, he used it for money. That's what people do today. They use their wisdom for money. They use their knowledge of Yahushua Mashiach for money. And Balaam rose up and tried the art of divination. So I mean, he tried it. I mean, it's like something you practice. And he was skillful in the knowledge of it. He wasn't dumb. And he was confused and worked. And the work was destroyed in his hand. He was confused and the work was destroyed in his hand. Right? Then it says verse 29, and he tried it again, but it did not succeed. And Balaam despaired of it and left it and did not complete it. For this was from Yahuwah. He was saying, why magical art, why did Yahuwah do it? In order to cause the foe and his people to fall into the hand of the children of Yasharal. That's the only reason he did it. Because if Balaam was able to succeed in that spell, people was like, people that practice divination and magical arts don't have no power. I said, okay. Let Yahuwah let that spell go through. Let him let the spell go through. And you'll find out for yourself. It says, guess what it says? Who had trusted in Yahuwah. That's the only reason. They trust in Yahuwah. So you trust in Yahuwah, Yahuwah won't let no spell come on you. He won't let nobody cast no spell on you. He won't let it happen. If you trust in Yahuwah, they that trust in Yahuwah understand the truth. Trust in Yahuwah all your heart. Lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him. You don't see Zephon, Asu, and Balaam doing that? And he will make straight your path. It'll be healing to your shore, your umbilical cord, your connection. The Elohim of their ancestors in their war. And Zephon and Hadad put their forces in battle array. And all the Egyptians went alone against them. It says about 300,000 men, and not one man of Yasharal was with them. And all the Egyptians fought with these kings opposite Pathros and Takpanas. And the battle was severe against the Mizraim. And the kings were stronger than the Egyptians in that battle. And about 108,000 men of Mizraim fell on that day. And about 30 men of the forces of the king of all the men of Mizraim fled from before the king. So the children of Asu and Yishmael pursued the Egyptians, continuing to smite them in the place where was the camp of the children of Yasharal. And all the Egyptians cried unto the children of Yasharal, saying, Hasten to us, and assist us, and save us from the land of Asu and Ishmael and the children of Kittim. Right? So you look at all of that. The only reason we're going through it because we're trying to show Balaam. Right? You see how Balaam tries to do sorcery. And you see how he tried to cast on the children of Yasharal, it don't prevail. And you see how when Mizraim try to go fight without the children of Yasharal, they lose because they trust in Yahuwah. Right? It's better to have somebody who trusts in Yahuwah with you than not. This book of Yasher, 67, 4-10. In those days died Zepho, the son of Eliphaz, the son of Asu, king of Kittim, and Janus reigned in his stead. And the time of Zepho reigned over the children of Kittim was 50 years. And he died and was buried in the city of Nabnah in the land of Kittim. And Janus, one of the mighty men of children of Kittim, reigned after him. And he reigned 50 years. And it was after the death of king of Kittim that Balaam, the son of Beor, the son of Beor, the Syrian, fled from the land of Kittim, and he went and came to Mizraim, to Pharaoh, king of Mizraim. That's what happened. Oh, he done died. First he was with Anges, remember? Then he jumped over to Zepho, and then he jumped over. Now he jumped over to Mizraim because they just fought against Mizraim. Right? He jumping. And then guess what else he did? He guess what he also is? He has wisdom, and he can practice divination and magic and sorcery. And he can do spells. He's very wise. And Pharaoh received him with great honor, the same way everybody else has. And guess what they did? For he heard of his wisdom, because he had wisdom in all these sorcery and magic arts. And he gave him presents. He gave him money. That's what every king did. They follow after the ways of Balaam. They follow after the ways of Balaam for greed. They practice divination for money. They have wisdom, this knowledge for money. They follow after the ways of Balaam and gave him presents and made him for a counselor and aggrandized him. They exalted him. And Balaam dwelt in Mizraim in honor with all the nobles of the king, and the nobles exalted him because they all coveted to learn his wisdom. That's all they wanted. They want to know that. They want how you do that divination, how you do that magic, how you do that sorcery, how you do that astrology, how you understand the Shemitah Kugel, how you know how when the stars align, you know when to do this spell. How you do that? Show me your wisdom. Show me how you do that. Give me your counsel, right? That's all they wanted. This is the book of Yasher, 67, 17. And the king said unto all the wise men, Interpret, I pray you, the dream which I dreamed, that I may know it. And Balaam, the son of Beor, answered the king and said unto him, This means nothing else but a great evil that will spring up against Mizraim in the latter days. For a son will be born in Yasharal, who will destroy all Mizraim and the inhabitants and bring forth the Israelites, Yasharal, from Mizraim with a mighty hand. So Balaam know prophecy. He wise, he know prophecy, and he a sorcerer. And he a counselor. And he can interpret. People say, who is Balaam? Man, you have no idea who Balaam is. Some people say, oh, you like Balaam. You have no idea who Balaam is. So now, therefore, O king, take counsel upon this matter, that you may destroy the hope of Yasharal in their expectation. They expecting this. Isn't that what we expecting something today? We expecting the return of Yahushua Mashiach, right? But guess what? They know that. Before their evil arise against Mizraim, but we ain't expect them to come from. We expect them to come from the Shamayim. You see how they say they think he's gonna come from the loins again. They think he's gonna be born into the world again. But guess what it says? But he is being born into the world, just not the way they thought. And the king said unto Balaam, And what shall we do unto Yasharal? Surely after a certain manner did we at first counsel against them and could not prevail over them. Now therefore give you also advice against them, which we may prevail over them. Now they tell them, give us some counsel. And Balaam answered the king, saying, Send now and call the two counselors, and we will see what their advice is upon this matter, and afterwards thy servant will speak. And the king sent and called his two counselors, Rubiel and the Midianite, and Job, the Uzite, Ehud. And they came and sat before the king. Yeah, Job, Ehud. It says, and the king said unto them, behold, you have both heard the dream which I have dreamed, and the interpretation thereof. Now therefore give counsel and know and see what it is to be done to the children of Yasharal, whereby we may prevail over them, before their evil shall spring up against us. And Rubiel the Midianite answered the king and said, may the king live forever. If it seem good to the king, let him desist from the Abri, the Hebrews. And it says, and leave them, and let them not stretch forth his hand against them. For these are they whom Yahuwah chose in the days of old, and took as a lot of his inheritance from amongst all the Goyim nations of the earth, and the kings of the earth. And who is there that stretched his hand against them with impunity, of whom Yahuwah was not avenged? Surely thou knowest that when Abraham went down to Mizraim, Pharaoh, the former king of Mizraim, saw Sarah his wife, and took her for a wife. Right? He took her for a wife because Abraham said, she is my sister, for he was afraid lest the men of Mizraim should slay him on the account of his wife. So you see how they know your Torah. They know your accounts. They understand it. They conversate with it. They understand it. Do you? Right, these are all the counselors with Balaam, but Balaam. They know. Right, it says, and when the king of Mizraim had taken Sarah, when Yahuwah smote him and his household with heavy plagues, until he restored unto Abraham his wife Sarah, then he was healed. And Abimelech, the Gerite, the king of the Philistines, Yahuwah punished on the account of Sarah, wife of Abraham, in stopping up every wound from man to beast. It says, when their Elohim came to Abimelech in the dream of night and terrified him in order that he might restore to Abraham Sarah, whom he had taken. And afterwards all the people of Gerar were punished on the account of Sarah, and Abraham prayed to his Elohim for them, and he was entreated of him, and he healed them. And Abimelech feared all this evil that came upon him, and the people of Yasher, it says, upon him and his people. And he returned to Abraham his wife, and gave her many gifts. He did also to Yitzhak, when he had driven him from Gerar, and Yahuwah had done wonderful things to him. And all the water courses of Gerar were dried up, and the productive trees did not bring forth, until Abimelech Gerar, Ahuzah, one of his friends, and Pekal, the captain of his host, went to him, and they bent the bow and bowed down before him to the ground. And they requested to him to supplicate for him, and he prayed to Yahuwah for them, and Yahuwah entreated of him, and he healed him. And Jacob also, the plain man, was delivered through his integrity from the hand of his brother Asu, and the hand of Laban the Syrian, his mother's brother, who had sought his life. Likewise the hand of the king of Canaan, who had come together against him, and the children to destroy him. And Yahuwah delivered them out of his hand. They know all your accounts. And they turned upon them and smote them. For who has ever stretched forth his hand against them with impunity? Surely Pharaoh and the former thy father's fathers raised Yusuf, the son of Jacob, above all princes of the land, when he saw his wisdom. You notice how Balaam getting exalted because of his wisdom, and he getting gifts, right? But you see, Yusuf got exalted because of his wisdom. For through his wisdom he rescued all the inhabitants of the land from a famine. After which he ordered Jacob and his children to come down to Mizraim, in order that through their virtue the land of Mizraim and the land of Goshen might be delivered from the famine. Now therefore, if it seem good in thine eyes, cease from destroying the children of Yasharal. But if it be not thy will that they shall dwell in the Mizraim, send them forth from here. that they may go to the land of Canaan, and the land where their ancestors sojourned. And when Pharaoh had heard the words of Jethro, he was very angry with him. He said he was very angry, so that he rose with shame from the king's presence and went to Midian unto the land and took Yusuf's stick with him. And the king said to Ehud the Izite, to Job the Izite, what sayest thou, Job, Ehud, and what is the advice respecting the Hebrews? And so Ehud said to the king, behold, all the inhabitants of the land are in thy power. Let the king do as seemed good in his eyes. And the king said to Balaam, what doest thou say, Balaam? Speak thy word that we may hear it. See, now Balaam, he said, speak the word, Balaam. And guess what Balaam said? And Balaam said to the king, of all that the king has counseled against the Abri, the Hebrews will be delivered, and the king will not be able to prevail over them with any counsel. For if thou thinkest to lessen them by flaming fire, thou canst not prevail over them. For surely their Elohim delivered Abraham from their father, from Ur of the Chaldees. And if thou thinkest to destroy them with a sword, surely Yitzhak, their father, was delivered from it, and a ram was placed in his stead. And if thou hard and rigorous labor, thou thinkest to lessen them, thou wilt not prevail, even this. For their father Jacob served Laban in all manner of work and prospered. Now therefore, O king, hear my words, for this is the counsel which is counseled against them, by which thou wilt prevail over them, and from which thou shouldest not depart. So Balaam know your Torah. He know everything that you've done. He know all your accomplishments and the things he can't prevail. He said, if it please the king, let him order all the children which shall be born from this day forward to be thrown in the water, for by this canst thou wipe away their name. For none of them, nor their fathers, were tried in this manner. So they're going to come up with a new way to do it. It's like, man, you can't do it through a sword. You can't do it through famine. You can't do it through hard work. You can't do it through sword. You can't do it through locking them in a place like Abraham and you took in your code. He delivered them. So we got to come up with a new way to get you. We got to come up with a new way. That's the same thing they do today. They be in their counseling and they be thinking about how can we stop them or this from happening. How can we stop it? That's all they're doing. And they still doing it today. Don't be foolish. And just hear what he says. And then the king heard the words of Balaam, and the thing pleased the king, Malach, the princes, and the king did according to the word of Balaam. Did according to his word. How you say he heard the word and he did it. It's the same thing they do today. Right? You start looking at this. This book of Yasher 70, 1 through 10. It's the same thing they do today. So Balaam is wise. He can practice divination. He can counsel. He can give advice. He know the Torah. So Balaam ain't no ignorant person. And he have wisdom in all magical arts, astrology, and all these things. And he can do divination and magical spells at certain times. And if you don't trust in Yahuwah, he'll prevail. And Yahuwah allow it to happen. Guess what? It still has power. This book of Yasher 70, 1 through 10. In the third year of the birth of Meshab, Pharaoh was sitting at his banquet, and Alaphanith, the queen, was sitting at his right, and Bathia at his left. And the lad Meshab was lying upon her bosom. And Balaam, the son of Beor, with his two sons, So Balaam a father too. The Syrian. Balaam the Syrian is a father as well. And he got two sons. And all the princes of the kingdom were sitting at the table in the king's presence. And the lad stretched forth his hand upon the king's head and took the crown from the king's head and placed it on his own head. And when the king and the princes saw the work which the boy had done, the king and the princes were terrified. And one man to his neighbor expressed astonishment. And the king said unto the princes who were before him at the table, what speak you? And what say you, O ye princes, in this matter? And what is it to be the judgment against the boy on the account of this act? And Balaam, the son of Beor, the magician, the sorcerer, the son of Beor, the Syrian magician, the sorcerer with 2 sons who's wise and his counselor, you could practice divination and understand astrology and all these things and the sun, the moon, the stars, answered before the king and the princes and said, remember now, O my master, the king, the dream which thou didst dream many days since, that which thy servant interpreted unto thee. Now, therefore, this child is of the Hebrew, I believe, children, in whom the Ruach of Elohim, in whom is the Ruach of Elohim. And let not my Adon, the king, imagine that this younger did this thing without knowledge. He said, we don't do stuff without knowledge. Why? Because ignorance is a great evil. He's like, man, don't think he did it without knowledge. For this Abri boy, this Hebrew boy, this Yehudi, right? He said, this Yehudi and wisdom and understanding are with him. Although he is yet a child, and with wisdom has he done this, and chosen unto himself the kingdom of Mizraim. He said, with wisdom he did it. He's like, no, they ain't just doing stuff. Nobody just doing stuff. When it comes to them, with the Ruach, they ain't just doing it. For this is the manner of all the Hebrew, I believe, to deceive kings and their nobles, to do all these things cunningly, in order to make the kings of the earth and their men tremble. Believe me, you think they don't know you? You think I'm close to them. I'm right there with them. They can't suspect me. They already know who you are. Please don't be thinking they can't. They know. Surely thou knowest that Abraham, their father, acted thus, who deceived the army of Nimrod, king of Babylon, and Abimelech, king of Gerar, and he possessed himself in the land of the children of Heth and all the kingdoms of Canaan, and that he descended into Mizraim and said to Sarah, his wife, she is my sister, in order to mislead Mizraim, the king. His son Yitzhak also did so when he went to Gerar and dwelt, and the strength prevailed over the army of Abimelech, the Philistines. He thought to making the kingdom of the Philistines stumble, and saying Rebekah is his wife, was his sister. Notice he repeating the same thing he said before when he told him to throw the children in the river. He repeated it again to the king because you forgot. Jacob also dealt treacherously with his brother and took from him the hand of the birthright, his Barak. He was saying, where did Beor come from? The Syrian. He came from the Chaldees, the city of Ur. He came from the loins in the lineage of rebellion. But guess what? And it says, and he went then to Panaram, to the house of Laban, his mother's brother, and cunningly obtained from him his daughter, his cattle, and all belonging to him, and fled away and returned to the land of Canaan, his father. And his sons sold their brother Yehusab, who went down into Mizraim and became a slave, and was placed in the prison house for 12 years, until the former Pharaoh dreamed dreams and withdrew from him from the prison house and magnified him above all the princes of Mizraim on account of interpreting the dreams to him. Right? And when Yahuwah caused a famine throughout the land, he sent for and brought his father out of all his brothers and the whole of his household, and supported them without price or reward, and brought them Egyptians for slaves. Now therefore, my master, my Adon the king, behold, the child has risen up in their stead in Mizraim, to do according to their deeds, and to trifle with every king, prince, and judge. If it please the king, let us spill his blood upon the ground, lest he grow up and take away the government for thy hand, and the hope of Mizraim perish after he shall have reigned. And Balaam said to the king, let us moreover call all the judges of Mizraim and the wise men thereof, and let us know if the judgment of death is due to this boy, as thou didst say, and then we will slay him. And Pharaoh sent and called all the wise men of Mizraim, and they came before the king, and the Malach of Yahuwah came amongst them, and he was like one of the wise men of Mizraim. Right, so we see how our Malachi can shapeshift into a human form. He could become like anybody, a wise man, anybody. It said, and the king said unto the wise men, surely you have heard that the Hebrew, the Yehudi, who is of the house has done, and thus has Balaam judged in the matter. So now you see how Balaam is a judge as well. He's a father, a judge. He's wise. He practices sorcery, divination. He's a magician. He can do a whole bunch of things. He understands the movement of Saturn, the signs of Shamayim. He understands Agor, divination. All types of things. Verse 24, the same book. And it says, and the Malak, and the angel, or the Malak, who seemed like one of the wise men of Pharaoh, answered and said as follows: before all the wise men of Mizraim, and before the kings and the princes, if it please the king, let the king send for men who shall bring before him an onyx stone and a coal of fire, and place them before the child. And if the child shall stretch forth his hand and take the onyx stone, then shall we know that with wisdom has the youth done all that he has done, and we must slay him. But if he stretch forth his hand upon the coal, that we know that it was not with knowledge that he has done this thing, and he shall live. And the thing seemed good in the eyes of the king and the princes. So the king did according to the word of the angel Malak of Yahuwah. So you got Balaam's instructions, you got the Malak of Yahuwah's instructions. But you see what happened. And the king ordered the onyx stone and the coal to be brought to the place before Mashah. And they placed the boy before them. And the lad endeavored to stretch forth his hand to the onyx stone. And the Malak of Yahuwah took his hand and placed it upon the coal. And the coal became extinguished in his hand. And he lifted it up and put it into his mouth, and burned part of his lips and part of his tongue, and he became heavy in mouth and tongue. So the Malak took the hot coal, put his hand on the coal, and he put it to his mouth, and he touched his tongue, and it burnt part of his tongue. It's like when you saw Yeshayahu, he says, "Whom shall I send?" He said he took one of the hot coals off the tray, and he touched his mouth and purified his tongue. And when the king of Mizraim saw this, they knew that Mashah had not acted with wisdom in taking off the crown from the king's head. So the king and the princes refrained from slaying the child. That's why the Malak of Yahuwah was there, to protect him from dying, from Balaam's counsel to slay him. Just like he stopped Balaam's divination from going against the children of Yasharal when they were going to battle with him. And guess what he said? So the king and the princes refrained from slaying the child. So Mashah remained in Pharaoh's house growing up, and Yahuwah was with him. And while the boy was in the king's house, he was robed in purple and grew amongst the children of the king. People wonder why Mashah, he said his tongue was burned off, right? You start looking at all these things, right? All these aspects. And he wore purple, right? And it says, and when Mashah grew up in the king's house, Bathea, the daughter of Pharaoh, considered him a son. And all the household of Pharaoh honored him. And all the Mizraim were afraid of him. And he daily went and came in the land of Goshen, where his brethren and the children of Yasharal were. And Mashah saw them daily in shortness of breath and hard labor. And Mashah asked them, saying, wherefore is this labor meted out unto you day by day? And they told him all that had befallen them, and all the injunctions which Pharaoh had put upon them before his birth. And they told him all the counsels which Balaam the son of Beor had counseled against them, and what they had also counseled against him in order to slay him when he had taken the king's crown off his head. And when Mashah heard these things, Mashah was too young to understand what was going on, because Balaam is still alive. And so when Mashah heard these things, his anger was kindled against Balaam, and he sought to kill him. And he was in ambush from him day by day. He was trying to kill him every day. He's like, I'm going to kill this for trying to kill me. And Balaam was afraid of Mashah. And he and his two sons rose up and went forth from Mizraim. And they fled and delivered their souls and betook themselves to the land of Cush. They going to Cush. And Cacanus, the king of Cush. So you see Balaam, when people lose and he get afraid, he gets scared, he leave. He start running. Where he going? Cush, Mizraim, Anges, Africa. He going to Kittim. He running. What he doing? because Messiah going to take him out. Book of Yashar 72. And it was in those days that there was a great war between the children of Cush and the children of east of Amram. And they rebelled against the king of Cush, in whose hand they were. And Qahalath, the king of Cush, went forth with all the children of Cush, a people innumerous as the sand of the sea, as the sand, and went forth to fight against Amram, the children of the east, to bring them under subjection. And when Qahalath were out and left Balaam out, he left Balaam and his 2 sons to guard the city. So he left, because remember, he left Mizraim to go guard being Cush. And guess what happened? It was his 2 sons to guard the city, and the lowest sort of the people of the land. He left Balaam in the city. Let's see what happened. And his 2 sons. And Qahalath went forth from Amram to the children of the east and fought against them and smote them. And they fell down wounded before Qahalath and his people. And he took many of them captive and brought them under subjection at first. And he is encamped upon their land to take tribute from them as usual. And Balaam, the son of Beor, when the king of Cush had left him to guard the city and the poor of the city, he rose up and advised the people, because that's what he is, of the land to rebel against the Qahalath, because that's what he does. He rebellion. He comes from that lineage of rebellion. To rebel. Practice witchcraft. And guess what he do? People think witchcraft is just magic and sorcery, right? Let's see what else. It says, rebel against the king of Qahalath, not to let him enter the city when he should come home. That's witchcraft. This is man's home. And then he'd be like, you know what? Let's not let him in. Let's rebel against him. Let's lock the door so he can't come in. That's called rebellion. That's witchcraft. Let's lock the door. And the people of the land are hearkening to him. If you hearken to Balaam, who is Balaam listening to? Satan and Mastama and his demons, because they practice rebellion and idolatry. And that people hearken to him. So what do you think a person, when you hearken to things, people say, I do these things. He said, guess what? You hearkening to him too. To Balaam, the teachings of Balaam. And they swore to him and made him king over them. And his 2 sons for the captains of the army. That's the same thing people do in these places. They lock the door. They say, you can't come in here. Nobody can come in no more. That's what they do. You say, why they do this? Because they follow the teachings of Balaam. So they rose up and raised the walls of the city at the 2 corners, and they built an exceedingly strong building. They built that thing. And when Qahalath, the king, so this is verse 12. We're skipping down. And when Qahalath, the king of Cush, approached the city, all the captains and the forces with him, they lifted up their eyes and saw that the walls of the city were built up greatly and elevated. So the men were astonished at this. And they said one to another, it is because they saw that they were delayed in battle. That's what they thought. And were greatly afraid of us. Therefore they have done this thing and raised the city walls and fortified them, so that the king of Canaan might not come and battle against them. So the king and the troops approached the city and the door, and they looked up, and behold, all the gates of the city were closed. And they called out to the sentinels, saying, open to us, that we may enter the city. But the sentinels refused to open to them by the order of Balaam. Balaam took over the city. So now he a king. He done took over the city. Remember, he come from the line of Beor. Bilal, the son of Beor, ruled over Edom. He came from the line of kings. He ruling the city now. He says, by the order of Balaam, the magician. People say, huh? The magician said, we ain't supposed to let nobody in. The sorcerer. He says, their king. He called it, that's their king. That ain't their king, that's their king. And they suffered them not to enter their own city. They can't even come in their own city. That's what they do. He's like, man, you done took over the house. You done took over my kingdom. Balaam, like, he the magician. He gave us a command and we obey it. Verse 31, it says, in the same book, it says, guess what it says? If we say we fight against the city, many of us will fall wounded or killed. And if we remain here in the siege, we shall all die. For now the kings of Amram and the children of the east will hear that the king is dead, and they will attack suddenly in a hostile manner, because Hyrcanus got killed. He just got killed in battle with Balaam, right? But here we go. But guess what? And it says right here, and they will fight against us and leave us no remnant of us. Now therefore let us make a king over us, and let us remain in the siege until the city is delivered unto us. Because Hyrcanus just got killed by trying to get his city back from Balaam after he went to war to come back to his own house, and now the person in his own house killing him. You're like, man, we need a king. And they wished to choose on that day a man of the king from the army of Hyrcanus. And they found no object of their choice like Mashah to reign over them, Moses. Because when Mashah fled from Mizraim, after he killed at Mizraim, he fled and he ended up joining the army of Cush. And then they ended up putting Mashah over Cush. It says, verse 35, and they hastened and stripped off each man his garments and cast them upon the ground, and they made a great heap and placed Mashah thereon. They made a great heap. They put one man over them. They put one man over them. Right? It says, and they rose up and blew the Turah, the trumpets, and called out before him and said, may the king live, may the king live. And all the people and the nobles swore unto him and gave him a wife of Aydah, the queen of the Cushite, wife of Hyrcanus. And they made Mashah king over them on that day. And all the people of Cush issued a proclamation that day, saying, every man must give something to Mashah of what is his possession. And they spread out a sheet upon the heap, and every man cast into it something that he had, one of gold earrings and of other coins. Also the onyx stones, bdellium, pearls, marble, did the children of Cush cast unto Mashah upon the heap. Also silver and gold in great abundance. And Mashah took all the silver and gold and all the vessels and the bdellium and onyx which the children of Cush had given him, and he placed them amongst his treasures. You always notice when Abraham go in a place, or Yusuf and all these people, they end up getting exalted and they ain't had to do nothing. Notice they getting money and things. They getting all these things, but did he do anything for that? No, they just like, let's put him over. Let's put Yusuf interpret the dream. Let's put him over and give him all everything he Yusuf say we do. Abraham went to Mizraim with nothing, came out with most abundant of riches, right? And all these things. They ain't had, what are they doing for it? They just going through trials. They just going through tests, and every single test gave them more riches. That's what's going on. But it said right here, and Mashah reigned over the children of Cush on that day, in the place of Hyrcanus, the children of Cush. All right, this is the book of Yashar 73, 20 through 28. And on the third day, the king said unto them, strengthen yourselves and become valiant men, and put each man his armor and gird up your sword upon him, and ride each man his horse, and take each his young stork in his hand. And we will rise up and fight against the city at the place where the serpents are. And all the people did as the king ordered, and they took each man his young one in his hand. And they went away, and when they came to the place of the serpents, the king said, send forth each man his young stork upon the serpents. And when they sent forth each man his young stork at the king's order, the young storks ran upon the serpents, and they devoured them all and destroyed them out of that place. And when the king and the people had seen all the serpents were destroyed in that place, all the people set up a great shout. And they approached and fought against the city and took it and subdued it. And they entered the city. And they died, and there died on that day 100,100 men, and the people of the city, and all the inhabitants of the city, but of the people besieging, not one died. It says, so that the children of Cush went each to his home, to his wife, and the children, and all belonging to him. So when Balaam took over the city, the magician, and he told him to rebel against Qahalath, he not only took the city, he took the wives and the children from the men. And the men outside of the city, outside the door, and now they trying to fight to get in and get their wives and their children back and their families back from this magician, this sorcerer, who done cast all these serpents and things, won't let you in by the order of the magician Balaam with his 2 sons. Verse 28, and people was like, who are he talking about? And Balaam, the magician, when he saw the city was taken, he opened the gate, and he saw, and he and his 2 sons and 8 brothers fled and returned to Mizraim to Pharaoh, the king of Mizraim. So now he leaving again. You see how Balaam worked? When the teachings of Balaam or his magician sorcery type operation work, him and his 2 sons, they come in and they teach you stuff, and then they leave when you get when it's time for you to get destroyed. When they get when they get taken over, and that's the same thing that happens today. You see people today, they have places, they got the doors shut, and they got people, wives and children in there, and the men outside trying to get in and get their children. And Mashah outside, he like, you know what? On the 3rd day, he said, man, gird yourself up like a man and put your armor girder on. Because we're going to take the city back. We're going to get your children back. We get your wives back. We're going to take the city back. Y'all going to get y'all kingdom back. Like, we start looking at this, right? You look at Balaam, right? You got a bunch of Balaams today, a bunch of magicians. But once he saw it, he went right back to Mizraim, the place he fled from. Because notice when Mashah get there, Balaam running. He always running. He running somewhere else. He running another place. He running another place. But he was remember, he was a father. He got father of 2 sons. He a counselor. He a judge. He practiced divination. He know the stars, the sun, moon, and stars. He know the movement pattern of the cosmos, and he know how to work things and do all these divining things. And he can give counsel, and he can also take over people's minds and give them instructions, and people will obey it. The book of Yashar 79, 20 through 28. And Mashah and Aaron rose up early the next day. Because remember, Balaam went back to Mizraim, and they went to the house of Pharaoh. And they took in their hands the stick of Yahuwah. Because there's a whole bunch of story, but we're going through, right? And when they came to the king's gate, 2 young lions were confined with their iron instruments, and no one persons went out or came in before them, unless those whom the king ordered to come. And when the conjurers came, because they were sorcerers, because remember, Mizraim taught his children this, and withdrew the lions. The sorcerers came and withdrew the lions by their incantations, because they can do that by their sorcery. And this brought them to the king. And Mashah hastened to lift up his stick upon the lions, because they were in an incantation spell. The lions had a spell cast on them by an incantation of a sorcerer. Just like Balaam, they had an incantation on those people. And those people would not let the men back in to get their families and their children from them. And that was like that, because Mashah reigned over Cush 40 years. And you got people doing this today, right? And it says what? You got incantation, and he loosed them. And Mashah and Aaron came into the king's house. He loosed them. And the lions also came with them in joy. And they followed them and rejoiced as a dog rejoiced over his master when he comes from the field. You ever see a dog jump around? That's how the lions were jumping around Mashah. He released them from the incantation that the actual sorcerers cast on them. He got incantations on these people. Yeah, people got incantations on people today. It says, and when they had gone, Pharaoh sent for Balaam, the magician, and Jannes and Jambres, his sons. Yeah, Jannes and Jambres, his sons. And to all the magicians and conjurers and counselors which belonged to the king, and they all came and sat before the king. And the king told them all the words which Mashah and his brother Aaron, had spoken to them. And the magicians said to the king, but how came the men to thee on the account of the lions which were confined on the gate? And the king said, because they lifted up their rod against the lions and loosed them. Like, how you made our magic spell go away? How you made our sorcery, our incantation go away? It says, and came to me And the lions also rejoiced at them, like as dogs rejoice to meet his master. And Balaam, the son of Beor, the magician, answered the king, these are none other else than magicians like ourselves. Because that's what they think. They think you just like them. Like, ain't no way they're greater than us. They not. They are magicians like us. They study incantations and sorcery just like we do. They study the astrology and the sun and moon like we do. They do the same thing we do, Because you know how some people do today? They have stars aligned, eclipses and all that, and they be thinking like you just like them. You know about that? I'm like, yeah. You look at the sun, moon, Shemesh, Kukubim in New York, right? What is that? For days, months, years, and muads, and feasts. And they just like us. So you think, right? Book of Yashar continued, 79, 34 through 41. And the king said unto them, but who will believe you that you are messengers of Yahuwah, and that you will come to me by his order? Now therefore give us a wonder or a sign in this matter, and then the words which you speak will be believed. That's the same thing they said to Yahushua. They said, come down from the totality, from the state. He said, and we will believe you. They needed a sign. Give us a sign that we may believe. They needed to see some type of sorcery spell. And Aharon hastened and threw his rod out of his hand before Pharaoh, before his servants, and the rod turned into a serpent. And the sorcerers saw this, and they cast each man his rod upon the ground, and they became serpents. These same people exist today. Sorcerers, conjurers, spirit channelers. They can do that too. They still here today. Whether it's spiritually or literally, this happened. Literally. Like you can go online. You can see these magicians and sorcerers. You can go on there. You can see them. They all on there. Doing all types of incantations. Making people float across their yard. Flying in the air. They doing this stuff. Pulling serpents out their mouth. And the serpents of Aharon rod lifted up his head and opened his mouth and swallowed the rods of the magicians. It swallowed their rods up. And Balaam the magician answered and said, this thing has been from the days of old. He said they've been doing this in the Chaldees way back when Nimrod, during the loins of Ham. They said this thing been done in the days of old, that a serpent swallow up its fellow and the living thing devour each other. He said, man, this ain't nothing new. And you be thinking like today, they don't do that today. This is nothing new. Now therefore restore it to a rod as it was at the first. And we will also restore our rod as it was at the first. And if thy rod shall swallow up our rods, then we shall know that the Ruach of Yahuwah is in thee. The Ruach of Yahuwah is in thee. And if not, thou art only an artificer or a magician like ourselves. People say they sent. They shalakim. They saying they this and that. I'm like, okay. Understand something. They're looking for a sign. Because they know, right? And Aharon hastened and stretched forth his hand, and he caught hold of the serpent's tail, and it became a rod in his hand, and the sorcerers did like their rods, with their rods. And they got hold, each man of the tail of the serpent, and they became rods at the first. Right? So this is 2 Timothy 3:8. Just as Jannes and Jambres opposed Meshach, so these men also oppose the truth. Men of corrupt minds, disqualified regarding Amunah. We're talking about Jannes and Jambres, the sons of Balaam, magicians and sorcerers. You opposing the truth. Why do you think they opposing Meshach? Why do you think Balaam was opposing the children of Yasharal? Why do you think he was practicing divination? Why do you think Asu was doing all those acts? Why do you think Nimrod rebelled against Yahuwah? They opposed the truth. Why do you think they forsook the father? Why do you think Arphaxad, the son of Arphaxad, didn't even tell Nuach about the book he found? Why do you think they were doing that? Inflamed by Shadim, demons. Book of Yashar, 84, 18 through 23. And in the 6th year of the children of Yasharal departing out of Mizraim, Yahuwah smote Sihon, the king of the Amorites. And he waged war and went forth, what did he say? To fight against the children of Moab. And Sihon sent messengers to Beor, the messengers, and the son sent messengers to Beor, the son of Jannes, the son of Balaam, counselor to to the king of Mizraim and to Balaam his son to curse Moab. To what? To curse Moab. So you look at Beor, the son of Beor. You look at this person. Beor was an artificer of sorcery, divination, and spirits. How you say it? Sorcery, divination, and magic. That's what he was. Right? Beor. And his name mean what? Burning. Right? And Balaam, his son, and he cursed Moab. He says to curse, it says, and to Balaam, his son, to curse Moab in order that it might be delivered into the hands of Saul. So they use these beings, these magic, these sorcerers, and these conjurers to cast spells on kings, other kings. To cast spells on other kings so they can win wars. The same way he tried to get them he cast divination. The foe tried to get them to cast divination on Turah Yasharal to win a war. They use magic and sorcery to win these wars. I know people say, no, they don't. I say, you live in the same world. And the messengers went and brought Beor, the son of Janus, and Balaam, his son. And it says Balaam, his son in here. But it says Pethor in Mesopotamia. So Beor and Balaam, his son, right? Balaam, his son. So Beor and Balaam, his son, came to the city of Saon, and they cursed Moab and the king in the presence of Saon and the Amorites. So you see now Balaam and his father. But Beor, the son of Janus, and Balaam were together, son and father. Mr. Beor and Balaam himself, son and father, going to curse somebody. What do you think they cursed him with? A spell. He cursed the Amorites. So Saon went out with his whole army and went to Moab and fought against them and subdued them. And Yahuwah delivered them into his, and he delivered them in hand. And Saon slew the king of Moab through sorcery. Right? And then people don't, and you start looking at this, right? But all this is what? You start seeing Beor, the son of Janus, Janaeus, and the son of Balaam, the counselor of Mizraim, and to Balaam, his son, to curse Moab. So you see Beor and his son, Balaam, going to curse one king to win a war. Because they do this today. Verse 18, and Saon took all the cities of Moab in the battle, and he also took Heshbon from them. And Heshbon was one of the cities of Moab. And Saon placed his princes and his nobles in Heshbon, and Heshbon belonged to Saon in those days. Therefore the parable speakers, Beor and Balaam, his son, uttered these words, saying, come unto Heshbon, the city of Saon will be built and established. Woe unto Moab! Thou art lost, O people of Chemosh, but it is written upon the book of the law of Yahuwah. And then Saon had conquered Moab and placed guards in the city which he had taken from Moab to a considerable number of the children of Moab fell in the battle in the hand of Saon, and he made a great capture of them, the son of the daughters, and slew their king. And Saon turned back to his own land. And Saon gave numerous presents of silver and gold to Beor and Balaam. Peter talks about these people have one in the ways of Balaam. Greed. That's the only reason he's cursing these people. They are sorcerers and curse and spirit challengers and spellcasters for hire. And they are very skilled in wisdom. Beor and his father. Beor and Balaam, his son. And it says, and he dismissed them. And they went to Mesopotamia, to their home and country. It says, and at that time, all the children of Yasharal passed by the road of the children of Moab and returned. And it says, and returned and surrounded the wilderness of Edom. So you see all these things happening, right? And you see how Balaam and Beor are very skilled at sorcery and casting spells on people. And it's the same thing they do today. This book of Numbers 22:1. Then the children of Yasharal went out and camped in the plain of Moab beyond Yarden at Jericho. And Balak, the son of Besor, saw the children of Yasharal had done to the Amorites. And Moab was in great dread of the people, and they were many. And Moab was overcome with fear of the people of Yasharal. And Moab said to the elders of Midian, "This horde is now lick up." He said, "Lick up all that is around us, as an ox licks up the grass of the field." So Balak, the son of Zippor, who was king of Moab at that time, sent messengers to Balaam, the son of Beor, at Pethor, which is near the river, in the land of the people of Ammah, to call him, saying, "Behold, a people has come out of Mizraim. They cover the face of the earth, and they are dwelling opposite me. Come now, curse this people for me." Huh? He called Balaam to do a spell, an incantation, just like he tried to do divination against the children of Yasharal when they went to go fight with Zippor. He told him to do it again. He's like, "Man, curse these people. Do a spell on them." Because remember, he tried it before. Balaam tried it before. He couldn't do it. Let's see. "Come now and curse these people, since they are too mighty for me. Perhaps I shall be able to defeat them and drive them from the land." They want to cast a spell on them, so incantation, a spell, so they can come and beat you in a war. "For I know that he whom you barak is barak, and he whom you curse is cursed." So the elders of Moab and the elders of Midian departed with the fees for divination in their hand. The fees, how you say money, the gifts, because Balaam did it for greed. He did it for money. He did sorcery, incantations. He did spells to get money. All right, that's why the book of Micah says the teachers, what? They nabba for a price. They prophesy for a price. That's what they do. They teach for money. You following the teachings of Balaam. That's what they do. And that's what they do today. They do it for a price. They do it for money. So you follow the teachings of Balaam. You follow the ways of Balaam. And guess what? You do it for greed. You just like Balaam. Yahushua said, "As you freely receive, you freely give," right? He didn't tell you to do it for no money. That's what Yahushua said. And people saying, why he said that? So you won't be like Balaam. As you freely receive, freely give. That's what the master of spirits said. And his son. Not Beor and his son. It says, "And they came to Balaam and gave him Balak's message. And he said to them, Lodge here tonight, and I will bring back word to you, and as Yahuwah speaks to you." So the prince of Moab stayed with Balaam, and Yahuwah came to Balaam and said, "Who are these men with you?" And Balaam said to Yahuwah, "Balak, the son of Zippor, and king of Moab. He was sent to me, saying, Behold, a people has come out of Mizraim, and it covers the whole face of the earth. Now come, curse them for me." Yahuwah talking to a sorcering, divination spellcaster. He like, who are these people? Because you got to inquire of Yahuwah to get him the answer, right? And he says, because Yahuwah control all these things. He even control the spellcasters. He control all the spellcasters on the earth and all the divination and magic arts. He controlled that too. That's why he didn't let Balaam's magic spell work on the children of Yasharal first time, but he let it work on the other king. Let's see what happened. He said, "Now come, curse them for me." He says, and Balaam said to Yahuwah, "Balak, the son of Zippor, the king of Moab, has sent to me, saying, Behold, a people has come out of Mizraim, and it covers the face of the earth. Now come, curse them for me. Perhaps I shall be able to fight against them and drive them out." And Yahuwah said to Balaam, "You shall not go with them. You shall not curse the people, for they are barak." So Balaam rose in the morning and said to the prince of Balak, Go to your own land, for Yahuwah has refused to let me go with you." So the princes of Moab rose and went to Balak and said, Balaam refuses to come with us. because he needed them to come to him and curse them, right? So the word Balaam means not my people. Right? Because remember, he ain't his people. He's a foreigner. He's not my people. But Yahuwah is still answering the person that's not my people, not to curse his people. But he ain't my people. This sorcerer, this spirit conjurer, this channel that's in the world today. He not my people. But I'm telling you, don't curse my people. Right? That's what he's saying. But he say, not my people. That's what Balaam is. He's not my people. Bamidbar, Numbers 22 and 15. Once again, Balak sent princes more in number and more honorable than these. And they came to Balaam and said unto him, thus says Balak, son of Zippor, let nothing hinder you from coming to me, for I will surely do a great honor, and whatsoever you say to me I will do. Come, curse this people for me. But Balaam answered and said to the servants of Balak, though Balak were to give me a house of silver and gold, I could not go beyond the commandment of Yahuwah my Elohim to do less or more. So you too, please stay here tonight, that I may know what more Yahuwah will say to me. He said, what more? But Yahuwah already told him, don't go. And they came again to entice him again. That's what Satan did at Kuah in the garden. And that's what Satan do today. Satan always going to entice you. Even after Yahuwah gives you a command not to do something, Satan going to always entice you to do opposite. It ain't going to stop. And guess what he says? And he says, so you too, please stay here tonight, that I may know what more Yahuwah will say to me. And Elohim came to Balaam at night and said to him, if the men have come to call you, rise and go with them, but only do what I tell you. So Balaam rose in the morning and saddled his donkey, and he went with the princes of Moab. In the morning he went. So this is the Aramaic Palestinian Targum section, XL Balak. It says in the word, this is the same verse, but this is a different version. It says, and the word came before me, from before Yahuwah unto Balaam in the night, and said to him, if these men come to call thee, rise and go with them. Only the word that I speak with thee, thou shalt do. And Balaam rose in the morning and saddled his donkey, it says ass here, and went with the prince of Moab. And Balaam rose in the morning and made ready his donkey, his ass, and went with the princes of Moab. But the anger of Yahuwah was provoked, because he would go, that he might curse them. That's why. Because he went. But he went in intent to curse them with a spell, an incantation, through divination and sorcery and magical arts. And the Malach of Yahuwah stood in the way as an adversary on him, as he sat upon his donkey. And his 2 sons and his 2 young men, Jannes and Jambres, were with him. Yeah, you know his 2 sons that he traveled with, his 2 sorcerer sons. Not his father Beor, but you see his 2 sons, Jannes and Jambres, traveling with him. The same 2 sorcerers that was with him in Mizraim when he was they were doing incantations and sorcery. They were with him. They were traveling with their father. Yeah, Balaam with your 2 sons. Yeah, they still travel with you. Your 2 sorcering children. Who was in Cush and took over the whole city and caused all the people to not let the men back in to get their children and their wives and get their families back. And you took over the city and you convinced all the people not to let them in. Through greed and money. Verse 22 is, and Yahuwah anger was killed. The same thing. This ain't the Aramaic Targum. This is the Bimbar Numbers, the ESV version. Verse 22. And Yahuwah anger was kindled against him because he went. And Yahuwah and the Malach of Yahuwah took his stand in the way as an adversary. Now he was riding on a donkey, and his 2 servants were with him. And the donkey saw the Malach of Yahuwah standing in the road, and with a drawn sword in his hand. And the donkey turned aside on the road and went into the field. And Balaam struck the donkey to turn to the road. It says, and then the Malach of Yahuwah stood in a narrow path between the vineyards. It says, with a wall on either side. And when the donkey saw the Malach of Yahuwah, she pushed against the wall and pressed Balaam's foot against the wall. So he struck her again. Right? So the word for donkey is a thon. It is a she donkey, a female ass, a female donkey. It's a donkey. It means patience. Yes, a thon. It's a female animal. It's a female animal. And you look at the word for donkey is athon. You got the aleph, the two, the wa, and the noon equals to 457, equals to 16, equals to 7. What's the day? The 7th day, right? But you see, it's a she donkey. Yeah. Bamidbar 22 and 26. Then the Malach of Yahuwah went ahead and stood in a narrow place where there was no way to turn to either to the right or to the left. When the donkey saw the Malach of Yahuwah, she lay upon Balaam, and Balaam's anger was kindled, and he struck the donkey with his staff. He struck her again with his staff, because he had a staff too. And Yahuwah opened the mouth of the donkey, and she said, and it says right here, and she said to Balaam, it's a she donkey, what have I to do with you that you have struck me these 3 times? How many times? 3. Keep that in mind. And Balaam said to the donkey, because you have made a fool of me. I wish I had a sword in my hand, for then I will kill you. Then and the donkey said to Balaam, Am I not your donkey, your athon, on which you have ridden all your life long to this day? So she was with him all throughout his life, from the time he was with the Angies all the way to now. It says, it is my habit to treat you. Is it in my habit to treat you this way? And he said, no. He talking to an animal. A regular conversation, talking to an animal. It's a normal thing to talk to an animal. He wasn't surprised that the animal started talking either. Like you see these shows, like you see all these magical shows, where the animal will be talking, the magician be with him, and the animal will be talking with him. He said he ain't even surprised. Verse 21, and Yahuwah opened the eyes of Balaam. Verse 27 says, then Yahuwah opened the eyes of Balaam, because he said, have you ever seen me do that? He said, no. Then Yahuwah opened the eyes of Balaam, and he saw the Malach of Yahuwah standing in the way with a drawn sword in his hand, and he bowed down and fell on his face. And the Malach of Yahuwah said to him, why have you struck your donkey these 3 times, your athon? Behold, I have come out to oppose you, because your way is perverse before me. The athon saw me and turned aside before me these 3 times. If she had not turned aside from me, surely just now I would have killed you. I would have killed you and let her live. And then Balaam said to the Malach of Yahuwah, I have sinned. You talking about the magician, sorcerer? He sinned because of what? For I did not know that you stood in the road against me. Now therefore, if it is evil in your sight, I will turn back. And the Malach of Yahuwah said to Balaam, Go with the men, but speak only the word that I tell you. So Balaam went on with the prince of Balak. So you're talking to a sorcerer, magician, a sorcerer who going on in a way, and guess what happens? He said, only speak what I say. But this is a sorcerer, a magician. He's a father. He got 2 sons. His father is Beor. He's wise. He's a counselor. He's a king, a ruler. He ruler of a Cush. He was a divination sorcerer. He understood the signs of astrology and the signs of Shamaim, and he knew how to cast incantations and spells, and he did it for money and greed. That's who Balaam is. He's a hired spirit channeler, sorcerer, for money. And he can cast spells on people, literally. So keep in mind, so you think about that donkey. So verse Shemuth 20, or the Athons, verse Shemuth 20 and 23 and 20. Behold, I send a malach before you to guard you on the way, and to bring you in the place that I have prepared. Pay careful attention to him, and to obey his voice, and do not rebel against him. Do not rebel against him. Don't rebel. Why? Because it's the sin of witchcraft and sorcery. Why? You see Asu, you see Esau, you see Nimrod, you see Balaam, you see all these people rebelling against Yahuwah, and they causing all the sons of Yahuwah to fight and quarrel. He said, don't rebel against him, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. He's sending a malak to keep him in the way. That's why he struck him. That's why he struck him these 3 times. The donkey saw him in the way. Why are you trying to keep him in the way? Why? Because he got something he got to do in the earth. This is Oriah, Luke 22:42. Father, if you are willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. And there appeared to him a malak from Shamaim, strengthening him. Behold, I sent a malak to keep you in the way. I sent him a lot to keep you in the way. Why? Because he would bow to the ground, just like Balaam. He would bow to the ground, just like Balaam. He said, behold, the malak was there to keep him in the way. He said, I kept you in the left and the right. You ain't going nowhere. And being in agony, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat became like great drops of blood falling on the ground. Isn't that what they did during the time of Nimrod? We read with Sarug. He said they spilled blood on the ground. Didn't that what they did? They spilled blood on the ground. And there appeared him a malak from Shamaim, strengthening him, right? It says, and being in agony, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat became like great drops of blood falling on the ground. And when he arose from prayer, he came to his disciples and found them sleeping for sorrow. And he said to them, why are you sleeping? Rise and pray, that you may not enter into temptation. Why? Because who was with Balaam when he fell on the ground, and the malak was in there to keep him in the way? His 2 sons. He had people with him. So remember, Bamidbar 22:23, it said Balaam struck the donkey and turned him in the road, right? And Balaam striking the female donkey. It was a female, a she donkey, a thong, right? ESV, Matthew 26-27. Then they spit and struck him. That's what the same thing he did to the donkey, to a thong, to the female donkey, and slapped him, saying, Naba, to us. And Mashiach, who it is that struck you? Why? Because the malak was there to keep him in the way. He said, why he struck him this one time? You struck me these 3 times. He's there to keep him in the way. Bamidbar 22:25. And when the donkey saw the malak of Yahuwah, she pushed aside to the wall and pressed Balaam's foot against the wall. So he struck her again. He did it again. Matthew 27:29. And kneeling before him, they mocked him, saying, Hail, malak of the Yahudim. And they spit on him and took a reed and struck him in the head again. The female donkey. The athon. And when they had mocked him, they stripped him of the robe, and put his own clothes on him and led him away to be crucified. You know why they let him be crucified? They struck him again. He said, man, there's malak in the way. He said, you know what? He said, go with them. Because Yahushua could have got out of this situation. He an all-powerful Elohim, but he said, no, go with them and only say what I command you to say. He said, behold, I sent a malak in the way, keep you in the way, beware of him, obey his voice. For my name is in him. And he won't pardon your transgression, because it would have been transgression for Yahushua to get out of this situation. He would be disobeying his father. He would be disobeying the word. You see how important it is to obey the word? Job 33 and 14. For Elohim speaks in one way, and in 2, though man does not perceive it. How many times it took Balaam to perceive it? It took 3 times. He ain't perceived it the first 2 times. Deuteronomy 19:15. Only on the evidence of two witnesses or 3 witnesses shall every charge be established. How many times he hit Balaam? He struck him twice. He said, you struck me these 3 times. It was established. That whole situation was established for Yahushua Mashiach. By 2 or 3 witnesses. Why do you think they struck Yahushua twice? It had to be established. Why? Because man has rebelled against Yahuwah. They rebelled against him. Why do you think they cast in a divination spell? Matthew 7:14. For the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to life, and those who find it are few. What did the Malachi? Malachi said the Malachi was in a narrow way, where one couldn't go to the right or the left. He couldn't move. Balaam couldn't move. He couldn't move on his female donkey, his female athon. Matthew 27:38. Then the two robbers were crucified with him, one on the right and one on the left. When Yahushua was on the cross in the midst, he couldn't go to the left or the right. He walled him in the way. He sent him a lot to keep him in the way, and he had to say everything Yahuwah told him to say. He said, "Go with him." That's why they took him and be crucified, because he had to go with them. He had to. Yuchanan, John 11:15. Now Yahushua loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. And so when he heard that Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was. And then after this, he said to his disciples, "Let us go to Judea again." And the disciples said to him, "Rabbi, the Yahudim were just now seeking to stone you, and you are going there again?" Yahushua answered, "Are there not 12 hours in a day? If anyone walks in the day, he does not stumble, because he sees the light of the world." I still got to go do it, because he sent a malak to keep me in the way. I got to obey his voice. Why? Because he would not pardon my transgression. Just because people wanted to stone him, he still had to go. Why? Because he would be a transgression for him not to. Yahushua was crucified by the third hour, right? But then you start looking at Luke 22, 44 through 49. He said it was now the 6th hour, and there was darkness over the land until the 9th hour. And while the sunlight failed, the curtain of the temple was torn in two. Because you said we talked about the mouth of two or three witnesses. Guess what? It was torn in two. Then Yahushua, calling with a loud voice, said, "Abba, into your hands I commit my ruach." And having said this, what did he say? Having said this, it said, then Yahushua, calling out with a loud voice, said, "Father, into your hands I commit my ruach." And having said this, he breathed his last. And now when the centurion saw what had taken place, he praised Elohim, saying, "Certainly this man was innocent." Why? Because he said, "Behold, I sent him a lot to keep you in the way." He would be in between two thieves, and guess what? He had to say exactly what I command you. He had to say exactly what he commanded. And it was about the 6th hour. There was darkness over the land to the 9th hour. Why? This is Luke 23, 44 through 49. It says, it was about the 6th hour, there was darkness over the land to the 9th hour, and the sun's light failed, and the curtain of the temple was torn in two. Well, we just talked about this part. Then Yahushua, calling out with a loud voice, said to his father, "Into your hands I commit my ruach." And having said this, he breathed his last. And now when the centurion saw what had taken place, he praised Elohim, saying, "Certainly this man was innocent." So this is Mark 15:33. And when the 6th hour had come, there was darkness over the whole land until the 9th hour. And about the 9th hour, Yahushua cried out with a loud voice, "Aliyah, Aliyah, lama sabachthani," which means, my Elohim, why hast thou forsaken me?" And some of the bystanders hearing it, behold, he is calling for Aliyah. And some ran and filled a sponge with sour wine and put it in a reed and giving it to him to drink, saying, "Wait, let us see whether Aliyah will come and take him down." And when Yahushua uttered the loud cry and breathed his last, and the curtain of the temple was torn in two, from the top to bottom. And when the centurion stood facing him, saw that in this way he breathed his last, he said, "Truly, this was the son of you, Elohim." Right? Why? There was darkness over the land from the 6th to 9th hour. And then also, he cried out twice, like a woman in travail. And they beat him like a female donkey. Just like a female donkey was beat by Balaam, Yahushua was beat. And then at the 6th to the 9th hour, there was darkness over the land, and he cried out. He said, into your hand, Father, I commit my ruach, my spirit." And then he cried out again and gave it the ruach. And the man said, "Surely this was the son of Elohim." this was the son of Elohim, surely, because of all that. But when the Malak told Balaam to go ahead and go with him, he said, only say what I say. He said exactly what he needed to say. And by him saying exactly what he needed to say, he's like, surely this is the son of Elohim. But he said right here, Yuchanan 19:31, since it was a day of preparation, so that the bodies would not remain on the cross on the Shabbat, for that Shabbat was a high day, the Yahudim asked Pilate that the legs might be broken and that they might be taken away. So the soldiers came and broke the legs of the first and the other who had been crucified with him. And when they came to Yahusha and saw that he was already dead, they did not break the legs, but one of the soldiers pierced his side with a spear, and at once came out blood and water. How many times did Balaam hit the Athon, the female donkey? He said, you hit me these 3 times. Remember, they smoked Yahusha once and they smoked him again. Remember, he cried out twice on the cross, on the stake. But when did they strike him the 3rd time? Right here. They pierced in his side, out came blood and water. Why would you pierce in the side a female donkey? And out comes blood and water, like a childbirth. It says, he who saw it bore witness, and his testimony is true. And he knows that he is telling the truth, that you also may believe. For these things took place that the scripture might be fulfilled. Not one of his bones shall be broken. And again, another scripture, they shall look on him whom they pierced. This 2nd Ezra 8:7-9. For thou art alone, and we are one workmanship in thy hands, like as thou hast said. For when the body is fashioned now in the mother's womb, and thou givest it members, thy creature is preserved in fire and water. And 9 months doth thy workmanship endure thy creature which is created in her. But that which keepeth and shall be kept is both preserved, and when the time cometh, the womb preserved, deliver up the things that grew in it. So when you see at the 9th hour, when Yahushua cried out in the 9th hour, what did he do? He gave up the Ruach. Why? Because he was a female donkey, a thong, delivering what's growing in it. Just like a childbirth. Just like a child being born into the world. Out came blood and water when they pierced him in his side. 2nd Ezra 6:20-22. It says that when the world that shall reign shall begin to be vanished away, shall be finished. What did Yahushua say at the 9th hour when he realized everything was done? He said, it is finished. Then I will show these tokens. The books shall be opened before the firmament, and they shall see altogether. And the children of a year old shall speak with their voices. When did Yahushua die? He said the lamb had to be a year old. When did Yahushua die? On the day he was born. And then guess what he did on the day he was born? He spoke with his voice. He said it had to be of a year old. And he spoke with his voice. It says the woman with a child shall bring forth untimely children. It says of 3 months or 4 months old, they shall live and be raised up. And suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown, and in full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty. When they pierced him in the side, out came blood and water. That full storehouse now is found empty. This is Job 11:12. But a stupid man will get understanding when a wild donkey colt is born a man, or born Adam. When you look at Yahushua having that, how you say, that child on the stake, but he got beat, even as Balaam beat that female donkey. How you say? He smote her twice, and then he smote her again. He said, you hit me these 3 times. He said, behold, there's a malak to keep you in the way. But what was that for? He said, after they saw that the bodies were already dead. They pierced him in the side, and out came blood and water. Man, you struck me these 3 times. But not even knowing that female donkey was pregnant. That female donkey was getting ready to bear, to be born a child. And when he saw the temple was written to, he said, surely this was the son of Yahuwah. What kind of child he bore? That child, he said, that child born, what fell on the ground when the child was born? Blood and water. It says, but a stupid man will get understanding when a wild donkey colt is born a man or Adam. If you prepare your heart, you will stretch out your hand toward him. If iniquity is in your hand, put it far away, and let no injustice be in your tent. Don't lie to yourself. Surely then you will lift up your face without blemish, and you will be secure and will not fear. You will forget your misery, and you will remember it as waters that has passed away. Right? And guess what it says? And you will remember as the water passed away, and your life will be brighter than the noonday. Its darkness will be like the morning. Why do you think when sun went down from the 6th to the 9th hour? Because its brightness was just as the noonday. And guess what? The iniquity that was in iniquity, he put it far away. Just like he put it far away from you by suffering on the stake, on the cross. And he removed injustice from your tent, from your body. And he lifted up his face to Yahuwah without blemish. And there was darkness over the 6th to the 9th hour. And guess what happened? His darkness was just like the noonday for you. And he was a female donkey. Or you mean a wild, but he wasn't a wild donkey, but it was a female donkey, bringing forth a man child, being beat for you. Just like Balaam beating it because the Malach was trying to keep him in the way, because his ways were perverse. But he was beating that donkey because his ways were perverse. Just like they were beating Yahushua because our ways are perverse. Just like Balaam. So the word for donkey is perah in that verse. It means wild ass, a wild donkey, running wild. He said when a wild donkey have a man child, or have Adam, right? You know, I say have a man child. But we just saw a female donkey. We saw a female donkey, a female ass, right? When it came to Athon. But then we see another donkey, a wild ass right here, having a man child, bringing forth a man. But we saw how the wild man, how the female man brought forth a man, and we saw how a female brought forth a man as well. And we saw how a female donkey and a male he said wild ass, bringing forth a man child. Let's see what type of donkey. He says the word for colt, or he said male. The word for colt, it says a donkey colt bring forth a male child. A donkey colt bring forth man. That word for colt is ayir. It means male ass or he ass. Now you saw a thong was she donkey, she ass. Now you have a year is a male ass. You got male animal, female animal. It means raising, bearing. Who bore the sin? He bore your sin. He was raised up. He said, the Son of Man will be lifted up. I'm going to draw all men to me. Just like one man, like Nimrod, like during the time of Nimrod, they were raising up one man to be over them. A male donkey, male animal, female animal. And that word for man in that verse in Iyub is Adam. Mankind, human being. Mankind, male animal, female animal, male and female. What happened? The word for Adam, Aleph, Daleth, Meme. What equals what? 1/4, 144 equals a 45 equals a 9. What happened in the 9th hour? He cried out and gave it the Ruach. He said after the 9th hour, the child is born. That's what we read in 2nd Ezra. It's going to be born. It's going to bring forth what grew inside of it. It was a child on the inside of him. and they smote the female donkey. They smote the wild donkey, the male and female. But guess what? His light shine is a noonday. So you got Aleph and Dam, which uses Adam, right? You got Aleph, Daleth Meme. Strength. Aleph means strength. Dam means blood. Strength in the blood. What happened when he pierced him inside? Out came blood and water. There was strength in the blood. Where did Adam was formed from? From the Adama, from the blood. Both male and female. What's the ninth letter of the alphabet? The teat. Mud, clay, male and female. Aleph, Daleth, Meme. You got the Aleph is strength, Daleth is blood, and Meme is water. The strength in the blood and the water. That's what Adam means. The strength in the blood and the water, or the strength of the door and water. Why do you think Yahushua said, I am the door? You are the branches. Not the branches of Sarug, but you are the branches that bear good fruit. And guess what it says? Strength is in the blood. It's in the blood. This is Bereshith 126. Then Elohim said, let us make Adams in our image, our Salim, after our Damuth, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the Shamayim, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. Or you're going to be a mighty hunter like Nimrod, rebel, and like Sarug, and rebel, and like Asu, and rebel. You going to do that? He said, behold, I send them locking away. Beware of his voice and do not rebel against him. He said, but I nourished and brought up children. They rebelled against the Malaki. They rebelled against it. But Yahushua didn't. For you. He didn't do it. So Yahuwah, Elohim, created Adam in his own image. In the image of Yahuwah created him. Male, Zakar, and female, Nakubah. Athon, Ayir. Male, female donkey. Male donkey. He said a stupid person would get understanding when a wild donkey, ass, or Ayir, colt, bring forth a man-child. Or bring forth man, Adam. To bring forth Adam, male and female. Male, female, he created them. Right? Look right here, you got Adam, you got La Adam, right? Salmuth, right? All these are what? La Damuth, Salam, right? All these are what? Image and likeness. You see the image and likeness of Yahushua Mashiach? You see the image and likeness of male and female donkey? You see the image and likeness of one man being lifted up above all. Why? Because they all rebelled against Yahuwah. He said, I nourished and brought up children, and they rebelled against me. Just like it was in the gun. They rebelled against him. And just like it is today, people have rebelled against him. But Yahushua Mashiach, all those who believe in him and be immersed in his name, shall receive eternal life. Not according to a feeling or a prayer, but according to what's written. Right? So you look at male, female, Nakubah, right? All these are all what? What are they? The word for male is zakar. Male child, female child. Yahushua said, if you don't humble yourself like a child, you will never enter the Malkuth, the kingdom. You ain't going to do it. It says remembered. Child. Male. Of male, a man, of man or animals. Male. Right? Word for female is nakabah. Female. Female child. Female animal. He both male and female. Athon, Ayir. He was both male and female. His light shine as a noonday, and he would beat just like a female donkey, getting ready to bring forth a man child, to bring forth a man, all in travail at the same time. Because people are following Balaam and the ways of Balaam today. This is Qahalath 11:5. As you do not know the way of the Ruach, comes to the bones of the womb of the woman with child. So you do not know the works of Yahuwah who makes everything. Great are the works of Yahuwah, studied by those who delight in them. In the morning sow your seed, and in the evening withhold not your hand, for you do not know which will prosper, this or that, or whether both alike will be good. So what you got to do, in the morning sow your seed, in the evening withhold your hand. Right? It says light is sweet. Because after you sow your seed, you got to wait. He said light is sweet, and it is pleasant to the eyes to behold the sun. Can you see the son of Yahuwah? Is it a pleasant thing to see the son of Yahuwah in the Torah? And if it's a pleasant thing to you, he said it's sweet. It should be sweet for you. Yuchanan 5:39, you search the scriptures, because in them you think you have eternal life, and they are they that bear witness about me. You thought I was a person who was exalted, one man exalted above all because they rebelled against Yahuwah? Nah, it was talking about me, because I was coming to redeem those people. You think it was about Balaam, the people of Balaam? We talking about Balaam smoting the donkey? You think it was about Balaam and his son, his father cursing a king? He's like, nah, it's about me. It was all about me. Why was it about you? Because I came to redeem these people. You think it was about Balaam bowing on the ground when he saw the Moloch in the way to keep him in the way? Nah, it was about me. It's all about me. It bear witness about me, Yahushua Mashiach. Yahushua Mashiach is a Don, master, his sheaf above your sheaf. Man, woman, child. You think you got eternal life. But you see people following the ways of Balaam today. Yuchanan 19:28. And after this, Yahushua, knowing that all had been finished, that's what he said, it's going to be finished, said, fulfill the scripture, I thirst. A jar of sour wine was stood there, and they put it in the mouth, and the sponge full of sour wine and hyssop branch, on the hyssop branch. On the hyssop branch, what does Sarug name mean? It means branch. But what was his lineage? What did he do? They practiced divination. They practiced incantations and spells according to the Shemesh Krubi in the yard. They practiced divination. They practiced it and did it during the signs of the Shamayim. When did they give him this actual sour wine? During the time when all of the luminaries and everything aligned for the Pesach. And he said, it is finished. And he bowed his head and gave up the Ruach. He gave it up. So this is Acts of the Nazarene, Acts of the Shalakim, chapter 21. It says, demons incite idolatry. There is another error of the demons, which they suggest to the senses of men and women and children, that they should think that those things that they suffer from such as call Elohim, in order that thereby, offering Zabarim and gifts, if it to perpetuate them, that they may strengthen the worship of a false religion to avoid us who are interested in their salvation, that they may be freed from error, because it's a great evil. And who teaches error? Error and Amunah, and they get you to depart from Amunah and faith? Satan. But this they do, as I have said, not knowing that these things are suggested to them by demons, for fear that they should be saved. It is therefore in the power of everyone, since man had been possessed of free will, whether he will hear us to life or the demons to destruction. Also, to some, the demons appearing visibly under various figures sometimes throw out threats, sometimes promise relief from suffering, that they may instill into those whom they deceive the opinions of their being Elohim, and that it may be known that they are demons to do these things in the present world. How is it allowed them to transform themselves into what figure they please, and to suggest evil thoughts, and to convey themselves by means of meats and drinks consecrated to them into the minds and bodies of those who partake of it, and to concoct vain dreams, and to further some worship of an idol. Esau, Asu, Sarug, Arphaxad, Canaan, Nimrod. Why do you think Azazel, all of them were teaching these things? It was only to get you to worship an idol. Bringing up stars and magic dust from stars and show it to men. Nazarene Exodus Shalakim 17. But Surah, the good news, get power over demons. You see how it's important to acknowledge Yahuwah, the acknowledgement of Yahuwah, and the observance of divine obedience, which not only protect those who believe from the assaults of demons. That's all it's about. You see how the demons try to get them shadim. The evil spirits help them worship idols, but also gives them command over those who rule over them, others. Thereby, it is necessary for you, who are of the Goyim nations, to betake yourselves to Yahuwah and keep yourselves from all uncleanness, that the demons may be expelled and Yahuwah may dwell in you. And at the same time, by prayers, commit yourselves to Yahuwah and call for his aid against the impudent demons. For whatever thing you ask, believe and you will receive. But even the demons themselves, in proportion as they see Amunah, faith, grow in man, because you know who made you doubt, who made error come in your mind, and who teach you all type of sin, and who take you from Amunah. Satan teach you these things. The old serpent, how you say? He does that. It says, see Amunah grow in man, woman, or child, the proportion they depart from him, residing only in the part which something of infidelity still remains, where you still got an idol at, where you still practice divination and sorcery at. They in there. That's where they at. Get rid of your idol and your sorcery, he said, in the rebellion, and guess what? They leave. They can't stay in there, even today. But for those who believe with full Amunah, they depart without any delay. For when a Ruach has come to Amunah of Yahuwah, it obtains the virtue of the heavenly water, by which it extinguishes the demons like a spark of fire. Exodus Shalakim, chapter 15, how demons get power over men. Therefore demons, as we have just said, when once they have been able, by means of opportunities, afforded them to convey themselves through base and evil actions into the bodies of men, women, and children, if they remain in them a long time through their own negligence, because they do not seek after what is profitable for their inner beings. You got to seek with love. You got to seek with care. You got to follow. You got to pray. You got to do all these things. And you got to live. How you say life? And necessarily compel them in the future to fulfill the desires of the demons who dwell in them. Because remember, the demons have a future. They want to do things in the future. And if you don't get rid of them, your future will be altered. Remember, they altered the world. Azazel and them altered the world through their teaching. But what is worse of all, at the end of the age, so you're going to be able to feel the desire of the demons in your present life, but at the end of your life, at the end of the age, when the demons will be co-signed to the ageless fire of necessity, the spirit, the Ruach, also that obeyed him, will with him be tortured in ageless fires, together with its body that it has polluted. Because it polluted with idols and demons and shadim. Polluted with war and teachings of Azazel and the teachings of the watchers. It's polluted. You got the teachings of Azazel and all the beings and all the sorcery. All these beings, how you saying? They polluted. And people think these books, some of these books, these scrolls, some of them are polluted with some of the teachings of the watchers. This is ODE, Shalom 7, 8 through 28. And Yahuwah will be known in his Kadashim to announce to those that have songs to the coming of Yahuwah, that they may go forth to meet him and may sing to him with joy, right? To sing to him with joy and with a harp in many tones. The seers shall come before him, and they shall be seen before him, and they shall praise Yahuwah for his love, because he is near and he holdeth. And hatred shall be taken from the earth. Why? Because they ain't going to be quarreling no more. The sons of Nuach ain't going to be fighting. Because remember, they were teaching their sons war. They were teaching their sons sorcery and magical arts. They were teaching their sons to rebel and worship idols against you. That's what they were teaching. He said, hatred shall be taken from the earth. Along with jealousy, it shall be drowned. For ignorance has been destroyed. Has ignorance been destroyed in your mind today? That's the whole point. We're trying to destroy that ignorance. Because we know that the teaching of Azazel and all these beings are still here. And we know that the people and the men, women, and children are following it. And it says, because the knowledge of Yahuwah hath arrived. It's here. People reject knowledge. Fools reject knowledge. That's what fools do, because they love ignorance. They love ignorance. They don't want to know, because that demon got to come out. How you say? Verse 24, they who make songs shall sing of the Khan of Yahuwah, the Most High, and they shall bring their songs. Open your mouth, right? And their heart shall be like the day. Oh, didn't he say he said it was darkness in Ehud? He said his light gonna shine as a noonday. Isn't that what Yahushua did? His light shone as a noonday. He said a stupid person get understanding when a wild donkey bring forth Adam, male and female. It says in the day, and like the excellent beauty of Yahuwah, a pleasant song, and there shall be neither anything that breathes without knowledge, because you ain't gonna be ignorant. You can't be. Everybody you need intellect, knowledge, right? Nor anything that is dumb. You can't be mute. He said ain't gonna be nothing mute. Ain't nobody gonna be holding their peace. He said if these are holding their peace or dumb, the rocks gonna cry out. The dumb rocks gonna cry out. For he hath given a mouth to his creation. Why do you think he gave you your gate, your seventh gate? You got your 2 eyes, you got your 2 ears, and you got your 2 nostrils, and you got your gate in your mouth. He said, I give you a mouth to his creation. To open the voice of the mouth towards him, to praise Yahuwah, not some idol, not some sorcerer and magician, not some sorcerer who bringing forth stardust and showing it to men. Not just some one human being raised up above people and people worshiping him. No, you supposed to worship Yahuwah, who's in the highest Shamayim and above the Shamayim, who rules all gods, all spirits, all sorcerers, all conjurers, all spellcasters and people who cast curses on people. He rules over all kings and rulers and princes and Malachi, because this world is dominated by them today because people are ignorant. For he hath given a mouth to his creation, to open the mouth towards him, to praise him. Guess what he says? Confess ye his power. He says the teaching of totality is foolishness to them that perish. You reject knowledge. And he says what? But to us, it is the power of Yahuwah. It's the power. It says, if you deny me before men, I'll deny you before, you deny me before men, women, and children, I'll deny you before my Ab. I'll deny you. He says, confess ye his power. You see, you confess me before men, women, and children, and show forth his Khan, his grace. How you say? His Khan. Hallelujah. So when we look at Balaam, and there's a lot more about the subject, a whole lot more. When we look at the lineages, when we start looking at this world exists, and these beings exist today. You see people like Mind Freak, Chris Angel. You see all these beings, these sorcerers that float basketball players up in the air. You see all these beings that can do all these things and cast spells on people, right? They call them Manchurian candidates. They do all these things and cast spells over people's eyes. Voodoo doctors, Vodou. They blow dust in your face, casting spells on you. Right? They can do all types of things through television, through radio waves, through vibrational frequencies. All these things exist in the world today, and it's advanced. But are you advanced in your mind? Are you advanced in your thoughts? Are you advanced in your knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that ignorance may not dwell in them, and that you won't be ignorantly worshiping the idol? Today is the day of freedom. Today is the day of warning. Today is the day that Yahuwah has made. Today is the day that Yahuwah has made, and we will rejoice, knowing that this Yom, that Yahushua Mashiach, male and female, he said, it is written in the Torah. It is written in the Torah forever. Your word, your debar, is settled in Shamayim. Alam Yahuwah Dabarak Shamayim. Yahuwah Allahim. So this Yom, we acknowledge Yahuwah and say thanks and give Tudah, Yadah, to the one who gives knowledge, who gives understanding, and who rules over all gods, over all men, women, and children, over all and all households. For the meek shall inherit the earth. The meek shall inherit the earth.